It was good, was good, was good. Welcome to Reflections of a DJ, the R.O.A.D podcast presented by DJ City and Beat Source. I am one of your hosts, DJ Crooked. We have DJ Never here.
Yo, what up?
We have Jamie the Great. And he's off to the side a little bit. He's doing his BTS game behind the scenes. D-Miles is getting his ass fixed, of course. He's MIA. But I have this round table of very talented and important individuals and have a discussion about a recent topic that we had at a previous episode, which was brought up, and this topic was house versus EDM. And when this topic came out to the public and it was on social media, you know, it kind of, I don't know if it went viral, but a lot of people had a lot to say about this. And there was really no clarity from all sides. It was like everyone had different arguments. And in this discussion of house versus EDM, emerged another topic, which I was a little confused about as well, was the difference between electronic dance music and EDM and how house plays under this umbrella of electronic dance music. But before we get into the details of this all, I want to, introduce this round table of heavyweights that we gathered for this discussion. I want to introduce Compton's only Dominican, right? Maybe the only Dominican to come out of Compton.
Yes.
He's one of my favorite DJs. He's produced for Diplo. He has all of our favorite remixes in the club, and he's an incredible, talented dude. We have Spider Tech. What's up, Spider Tech?
What up?
And then, we've had this guest on before, and we recently saw him at Beyond the Music in Arizona. He's become kind of like every DJ's like favorite life coach. He's like a guru to the working DJs, but he's just an amazing house DJ and amazing EDM DJ. He's a resident at Tao, Lavo, and Marquee. I worked with him for like maybe over 10 years or more.
Sure.
Jason Lima. What's up, Lima?
Hello. Thank you for having me.
And then I'd like to introduce, I've known this dude for, close to 20, maybe almost 20 years now. Yeah. He's one of my favorite house DJs, open format DJs, dancehall DJs. He's done it all. He's very, very, very well versed in open format as well as house and dancehall. And he actually, not only is he a DJ, but he's now has his own DJ agency, Mac Agency, and he's from, Dirty Jersey. And I love this dude a lot. We have Edm Mcdonald here. Eddie Mac is good.
Back.
Good to be back.
And now it's always a pleasure, for me to introduce this individual. I see him as like a god. I call him like the Jerry Weintraub for DJs.
It's accurate.
He's the grand ambassador of hip hop, especially in Las Vegas and New York. He's the co-founder of The Source magazine. He's the director of programming for Win Nightlife at one point. And, this dude is an encyclopedia of hip hop, and he's just amazing. And every time I see him, he educates me and schools me and tells me all these amazing stories around hip hop. And I'm very happy he's here. Shecky Green.
Hey.
What's up?
Thank you, Crooked.
Yes,
Appreciate it, brother.
So I want to have this conversation with you guys. And I know, we were initially talking, I talked to you guys separately on the side. But, there's this discussion of house versus EDM. And before I go into that, when this topic came out, something that kind of, it didn't upset me, but I was kind of confused, was that when I started Googling house music, it was labeling house music EDM. And then not only that, but people were referring to house as EDM. And when we had this whole discussion on social media, everyone's like, what are you talking about? How are you saying house versus EDM? House is EDM.
That's
right. And then there were a couple of radio people, right? We all love radio people. So like radio people were telling us, you guys got it mixed up. You're mixing up EDM with this genre of music that emerged in the 2010s. With electronic dance music, which is actually an umbrella for all electronic dance music. And that's what we call EDM, but you're calling EDM this other EDM. But these are also radio people who refer to hip hop and R&B as urban too. They're just like, that's urban. Anything black music is urban to them, right? So I was confused because even when I Google, let's say a song like Donna Summer's "I Feel Love," which to me is one of the first
Disco.
disco songs, but it was like that had elements of house in it to me. When I Google that, Google says that is the first song that had the first evidence of EDM.
Yeah, I mean, modular synths that Giorgio Moroder used with those arpeggiators and all that. It was almost more like an early. I think it's more like a blueprint for what became trance, like a lot of those arpeggiators and stuff like that. I mean,
But it made me wonder because I've never heard the term EDM till the late 2000s. And even the term electronic dance music, I never even heard.
I don't believe it was. Let me just preface this by saying, to me, the word dance music is the easiest and quickest way to summarize everything.
Right.
Because you deal with people who want to describe what they think is dance music or what they think is house music or what they think is techno or trance or all the other subgenres like disco house. And so many others. It's kind of like calling it dance music is a shorthand, I feel, that makes sense. Because I don't think the word EDM or electronic dance music was really used back then. It was electronic music or dance music.
Right.
Those are the words. You either said, oh, that's electronic music.
Right.
And that referred to a legacy that started, in my opinion, with Giorgio Moroder, Kraftwerk, and a few other important artists.
Right.
And kind of that was electronic music, and it was also dance music. But the word EDM or the term, that phrase, in my opinion, began around 2009 when those first few big hits kind of came out. And being here in Vegas, I think we all saw
the Beatport shit, basically.
we saw firsthand like that transition happening around 2009.
Let's talk about this. Well, I want to talk about that Donna Summer. So when they're saying that that's the first instance of EDM, it's kind of right, but kind of wrong. It's the wrong term, right? It should be electronic music.
Right. Yeah, that's the umbrella, I believe. Shecky nailed it. I think there's
there's two umbrellas, I feel like, and that's the thing.
Dance music and electronic music.
Now there's three umbrellas because now people are saying electronic dance music / EDM embodies everything from house, techno, electronica.
That's not accurate.
No, not accurate at all.
So that's what I think radio people are saying.
Okay.
Which I understand radio had to create a catalog or umbrella to embody all of these things. And then there's electronic music and then there's dance music.
Right.
And I think there's the confusion between EDM, electronic music, and dance music. So when I Google, I Feel Love, Donna Summer, and they say it's the first evidence of EDM, it kind of bothers me because to me it's like rewriting history a little bit.
That abbreviation EDM is the most. So it's the newest term.
Yeah,
correct,
for sure.
And it's also much maligned, and it also has become a bad word, basically.
Yeah.
So we should be honest about that.
But I think
basically it's a bad word. When someone says EDM, I want to run in the other direction. I mean,
I'm like,
pretty much.
Yeah.
Let's go into that. Let's go. Why is it a bad word? Why?
Because it's become known as like.
The commercialization.
It was it had a shelf life, and it feels forced now. I think at times, and I think the term, there's a lot of marketing behind it. I think it was a term to make electronic music a little bit more approachable to the masses, so they came up with this EDM term. Because electronic music, if you would look at like Grammy nominations from back in the day, and I'm not saying that this is who was nominated, but you might have Daft Punk nominated alongside Paul Van Dyke, Groove Armada,
Moby,
Basement Jacks, Moby.
Yeah.
Paul
Oakenfold, right?
Yeah.
For I mean, and that's those are completely different styles and deliveries, but they all fell under the electronic music.
Yeah, Grammys,
category.
I think, would call it electronic music.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, technically, you can even put in, some R&B and hip hop into the electronic music catalog. You can include some hip hop and R&B into the dance music catalog, right?
Sure.
Yeah. So it can get confusing. You know what I mean? But the thing that I don't like is like kind of to me, it's the rewriting of history, and it's I think it's kind of a miseducation when the general public literally thinks, I'm talking not DJs, the general public thinks all house, all trance, and all techno and is all EDM.
Yeah, well, there was problems with that. Even like back in the day at Light, man, I'd be
Everything
playing.
was techno, right?
Everything with on a 4/4 time signature, boom. Anything with a 4/4 kick
Techno
drum or
was
whatever.
was the bad
I would
EDM.
play Music Sounds Better with you, and it's like, are you going to be playing techno all night? I'm like, motherfucker. Now I want to pull out like some. At the time, I don't even know like some Max Zim
real
shit or something
techno.
like. And I'm okay. Be careful what you ask for, motherfucker, because how you can misconstrue
Techno
music.
was a
Sound.
bad word. Techno
Yeah.
was a bad word for a long time.
That was a very.
It's funny because all of these words at one time were a bad word. Not really house, but like disco became a bad word.
Right.
True.
Techno became a bad word.
True.
EDM became a bad word. So it's like
Because of the commercialization involved in it. When you have Ethel Merman starting to make disco records, but it just lost itself. It lost its direction, and you got Rick Dees, that
Disco
douchebag
Duck.
disco duck, you know. And then
don't say anything about the Sesame Street disco because I love that.
I'm
one.
with it. I
The
still
one that
have
has
my.
Grover.
I still
Remember
have
Grover's
it.
on the cover?
Yep.
That's a great record.
Yep. Hell
And
yeah.
we're old.
So I mean, like, since we're talking about disco, let's talk about the evolution of electronic music and like house music. Because for me, I kind of want to know what is the song or what is the first couple songs that you think was EDM? You know?
I mean, I think it's. I was thinking about this leading up to this.
Right.
I looked up some of the dates just to make sure, but I think "Sexy Bitch,"
Yeah.
LMFAO,
Yeah.
and what's it called? "I Got a Feeling."
Black Eyed Peas.
Black Eyed Peas. Those all three kind of came out around summer of 2009.
Flow Rider.
Well, also
And
that Crooker's Day and Night
It was
too
like
around
the,
that time.
Day
it was
and
like
night.
the
Yep.
peak of that electro house. You
Right,
sound
it was
that
coming out of. That's
yeah.
right. It was coming out of a movement.
The Banana Split.
Split
Yeah.
movement.
Yeah.
And that's why it kind of is a DJ AM related, you know, because it's a few interesting things like AM related. Like first is that that Banana Split movement was all about indie dance.
Yeah.
And like those kind of artists, you know, like Mastercraft and a bunch of other, you know, crookers and people like that.
Dim Mak.
The Dim Mak crew,
Yeah.
right. And Aoki
Aoki.
was a big-
Justice.
Justice and Aoki, and that go ahead. And
Yeah, I think they call it Bloghouse now, right?
Yeah.
They call
Yeah,
it Bloghouse now.
That's what they call it.
I remember at the time I called it electro and hipster. You know,
I like the word electro, even though
Electro was.
There was also
basically
Electro
what it
Clash,
It
was like kind of.
Electro Clash was the Brooklyn-based, like
It was all over. I mean, you
House
had like
of
Miss
Jealous
Kitten,
Lovers?
like
Yeah.
it also, but yeah, there was also like a German edge to it. Like Miss Kitten and the Hacker
Yeah.
were like big in that genre, and that was like on the cover. That was like the wave at one point, and they
Yeah.
were at the
are you
forefront.
talking about like Dutch house, like or
No,
No,
it's
no, this was before that.
yeah, Electro Clash. It was its own kind of genre. Even Miss
like
Kitten and the
kinda
Hacker, like a lot of stuff on international DJ gigolos, like DJ Hell and stuff like that. We're doing stuff like yeah.
But if we were going to talk about electro, like what are the songs that describe electro that we would say would be like Warp? Was that?
Well,
like,
okay, so when you talk about electro, you talking about 80s electro or 2000s electro?
I'm
Thank you
talking
for
about
saying
2000s electro.
Okay, 2000s electro would be Crookers.
Right.
To a certain degree, Justice, but Justice was more like French touch
right,
a little bit.
Right.
Who would you have? Oh, Dead Mouse, yeah.
He came out with some beautiful.
Yeah, Dead Mouse was considered electro house at the time. Then he kind of branched off and went to his own thing. But that era, it was
Wolfgang Gardner.
Yeah. Man, I'm forgetting a bunch of names right now.
It seems like a lifetime ago.
Yeah, it really does.
What was that thing? It was called something Bangers.
Ed Banger.
Ed Banger?
Ed Banger Records.
Ed Banger,
yeah.
Records,
Yeah, like what's
Mr.
his name?
Wazzo.
Who passed away? What was his name?
Oh, Medi.
Medi. Yeah.
Hey, so like real quick, I don't know where to start this. I kind of want to I want to create a timeline with you guys. Is that possible?
Sure.
Where we can create a timeline.
We can attempt to.
Yeah, we can attempt to. You know, I think that'd be the best way we do
Yeah.
this, right?
Yeah.
So the 1970s hit, right? We're in the 1970s.
Nice.
You got disco. You have like kind of early craft work, right? Kind of coming out.
The shit from our South Soul records.
Nile Rodgers is at the center of all. If you want to just make it simple for everybody, you just say Nile Rodgers because
The centerpiece.
once you kind of get to him, you kind of can relate to what's around him. You know, it's the Studio 54 and, you know, like a lot of New York, New Jersey,
Leroy
and
Burgess,
Philadelphia.
probably as well.
A lot of music coming out of Philly was early disco as well, like Harold Melvin, the Blue Notes, and some of that, you know, sound. So Philly, New York, New Jersey was kind of the hub of I think of 70s disco.
Yeah.
And then there's also like electronic music kind of emerging, right? With Kraftwerk a little bit.
Kraftwerk were fed into it, yeah.
Was Kraftwerk really disco though?
No, I mean
It was like more hip hop was playing like
It was
Trans Europe Express, which is like more of a hip hop.
But see the
breakbeat,
the disco and the hip hop, you know,
They
it
coexisted.
melts.
yeah. Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, Kraftwerk, as a lot of people may know, are like my biggest heroes in music because like they're like so important. It's like they're kind of at the crux of so many things: house, hip hop, electro,
Trance,
techno.
everything,
They're definitely more.
Yeah, it's like
more
they're-
on the experimental side.
You know,
of
if you
things.
trace it all back, that's why I always think it's like Giorgio Moroder, Kraftwerk, and
Yeah.
Nile Rodgers. With Kraftwerk kind of in the center, Giorgio Moroder and Nile Rodgers, and then you can kind of trace everything from them. I mean, there's of course a lot of other Italian disco producers and artists. There's a lot of other American disco artists and producers, but in a sense, those are like the figureheads, I think.
Yeah.
And that was kind of the 70s, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
towards the late 70s, we're seeing the like kind of the death of disco, like or the beginning of the 80s.
Now we're getting into like Prelude era type stuff,
Yeah.
or
West End.
West End. Yeah. But yeah, I mean,
West
it
End?
helped,
West-
huh?
what's West End?
West End Records, Silver. That was like Tanya Gardner, Heartbeat. Right on the Rhythm,
Then things
Mahogany.
get kind of flipped.
Don't make me wait on Peach
Boys,
yeah.
yep.
Oh, yeah.
Larry Levan put out a lot of records. on Prelude Records.
It got a little harder, basically. Like
It went from like disco to like boogie funk.
So, yeah.
Okay.
And then from Boogie Funk, right, which is basically kind of like 80s R&B that we would know, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Even
I used to think
Heartbeat,
disco R&B.
Fly Robin
Yeah,
Fly
disco
type
R&B,
shit.
basically.
Yeah.
Silver
Like classics R&B that we
Like-
would like, yeah.
Right.
First Choice.
Yeah.
First choice.
Letting a Man Put Us Under. Dr. Love.
So much
stuff
good
like that.
music. Yeah,
oh, that's the best. That's
so
yeah.
good.
So then it started emerging to this.
And then you had the other side of it that still liked the groove and rhythm of disco. And then that kind of went underground, and that kind of turned into house.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And that was like, the Detroit stuff.
And the hey, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, but the leg of it that also kept it alive was Latin freestyle
Yes.
and electro.
Right.
Hell
Yeah.
yeah.
God.
Because-
Yeah.
So there's
Thank
so
God,
many different
right?
branches. There's so many different
yeah.
branches of it.
But Latin freestyle kind of carried us into the 80s.
Yeah.
Like
that-
Lisa, big example, but also like Noel and
TKA,
Stevie B,
B.
and all that. And
Yeah.
that usually a lot
I
of
felt
people.
like that was like more
Mind.
dance hip hop.
That's
like,
right.
Like Latin hip hop.
I agree.
Yeah,
Anyway, I
the
was gonna
beats were like
chuggy.
Yeah,
So
like
chuggy.
Carlos Berrios and obviously like
I can still find inspiration.
Musto and well, no, that was more like but Carlos Berrios was like some of my favorite beats, and that was like Miami freestyle
Said
sound.
Noel.
you know?
Yeah, that's expose and all that kind of
Oh,
stuff.
like Lizette Melendez, Together Forever.
Oh, yeah.
He's like he just has this particular kind of flavor
the
to
stabs,
it.
the
He's
The
so
Latin
dope.
Rascals.
Yeah, I was going to say basically, if you were
Latin
into hip hop
Rascals,
in the
hell yeah.
80s, you're also into Latin freestyle and electro. Like it was
It's
kind
the
of all
crazy
goes
part.
together.
I wish you had like this timeline of things, because there's so many different family trees and branches of things.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
There's so
it's
many
like a lot of
offshoots and
judge-
shit,
yeah.
man. Yeah, it's crazy.
Without Kraftwerk and Africa Bambaataa, I feel like Latin freestyle wouldn't exist in the same capacity
Yep.
because of the
Okay.
rhythm.
Yeah.
I could agree to that.
Yeah, Planet Rock is the foundation of all Latin freestyle.
Yeah.
Pretty much. It's like that's the seminal record.
Boom.
Yeah,
boom.
that's
Just taste the funk and hit me. Just get on down and hit me. Bambaata's
Yeah.
and in fact, it still gets used, even today in mixes and stuff like that. So, but yeah, hip hop and those genres are kind of closely tied together.
I also want to talk about the culture of this music, though, because I feel like that's important. And I feel like a lot of people, the conversation was kind of coming up when Beyonce's Break My Soul song came. And everyone was like, Beyonce's bringing house back, right? She's bringing dance music back. She's bringing house music back. And it was on Twitter, it was almost like the energy that like, oh my God, like Beyonce's bringing house back to the black community. Almost that it was taken away.
Yeah.
You know, but it was kind of the energy of it. I kind of want to go ahead.
Okay, so this is the craziest part. So me being from the West Coast,
Yeah.
I only started going out to the East Coast just within like the last year. So being able to go to like Philly and New York and go to these different spaces where they have these parties, black people exist in these fucking spaces where they're just playing house music. Like it never went away. Like, and you have, you know, artists like Black Coffee, you have, you know, Carl Cox and all these other people. House is definitely black. Now, I would say EDM kind of othered that shit to where, you know, this was only house and, you know, black centric house, you know, like the early 90s kind of stuff that was going on, you know.
Tony Humphries and all
right.
that stuff, yeah.
All of that shit kind of got othered and pushed to the side and like, oh, this is not EDM. That's, you know, that's other shit.
But it stayed more underground.
And it stayed more underground, but there's still a really huge scene for it. And I've seen it with my own fucking eyes.
Yeah. But I think that's their point, is that now it's coming to be a potential crossover where it's going to be what it was before. And I want to talk about what they mean by that, by house in the beginning, just like disco, was kind of like, it was built around minorities, right?
Yeah.
Pretty much. It was almost like so that, you know, when people bring up the Beyonce, like she's bringing house back with Break My Soul, it's almost like it was stolen from black people and it was turned into EDM and all of this stuff, you know?
So you see, I think there is some truth to that, even though we know that the people saying that are younger and they haven't lived through all those generations to see the full cycle of it.
Right.
But for a younger person, they might have perceived dance music as all these European white faces that came across from, you know, and there's nothing against. A lot of them make great music. I'm talking about the Calvins, the Gettas, the everyone else.
It's not their fault though.
They're all great. They're all great artists in their own. Many of them are great artists in their own way. But my point is that for a younger person, that's the face of dance music. Basically.
Right. Well, yeah.
And so they don't. They just don't know. They just don't know that. Look, there's actually this long history where dance music has always really been black music from day one. You know,
so
in every form.
I think Beyonce's attachment to it now is just bringing it to
the forefront,
a pop place again.
Yeah.
Because if you think about like the 90s, what would you put on the radio station and you're going to hear CeCe Peniston finally. You're going to hear Show Me Love. You're going to hear Gypsy Woman.
Right.
Yeah.
All that shit.
D-Light.
Proper house. That's Basement Boys production, Stonebridge. I mean, you can't get any more pure house than that. And granted, I mean, we've been bombarded over the last decade with fucking Show Me Love remixes, but that was the radio. That's what you would do when you turn on the radio. Now, and those songs blew those artists up. I mean, you know, 100% Pure Love. Another Crystal Waters was like a queen of the 90s, and now you take somebody with the magnitude of Beyonce.
You know? I think what they're also saying is that they see a pattern, because when disco was going crazy, right? There was this whole movement, and I think, where was it? In Philly, when they were like in the stadium, and
Chicago.
That was Chicago.
Chicago.
Yeah, there was
Disco Sucks.
Disco Sucks, and they burned all of these records.
Steve, what the fuck was that guy's name?
It was a rock.
He was a jerk off.
Yeah,
Some rock jock.
It's a rock radio DJ that staged a big thing, and it had a very negative sort of racial.
It was very racial
and anti-gay undertone.
Nile Rodgers nailed it. Whenever you see that clip, that's in so many documentaries, and he's like, it was homophobic, it was racist. Those were the undertones, man, and it was like
seriously.
And then later, everyone denied that they just, you know, like we see every day now on TV. Someone does something, and later, I never thought that. I never did that. But yeah,
and it was also scared because disco was outselling rock music, which at the time was the #1 genre of music.
Yeah,
and I heard one of the things that actually started this whole thing was that the rock guys wanted to go to the parties. They wanted to go to these disco parties, but they couldn't get in. They weren't invited, and they just couldn't fuck with it. They couldn't get in. You know what I'm saying?
I mean, that's not. Look at the Rolling Stones. They came out with "Miss You." That was straight up disco.
Rod Stewart.
No. I'm saying, like, I heard that at the time, all of these dudes' girlfriends that listened to rock, their girls started going to the discos, and they started losing their girlfriends. And because they were going to discos,
like
and they
the
were
Tony
dancing.
Maneros of the world.
And they were dancing.
They couldn't dance. They couldn't dance.
And they were dancing with like Latinos and black people.
Travolta
and,
came out.
And to them, they're like, yo, like, what the fuck? Like, these fucking disco dudes are taking our girls.
These fucking moolies. They're taking our girls.
But that's how I heard it started, because they were losing pussy. They were just like, yo, we're not getting our pussy anymore.
Their masculinity was tested, and
and they lost.
Whatever, but straight up and down, that was the driving force behind it. I mean,
as probably the oldest guy here, I just have to say, I do remember there was a time that rock versus disco was a choice that you had to make. You know,
Really?
like I never made the choice. I always wanted both, you know, but kind of like the peer pressure.
In school?
You kind
You
of
had to
in
choose
school,
your side,
You kind of
yeah.
had to pick one or the
Gotta
other.
hang out with that one guy.
Wait, which
Right.
one? Which one were you? Which one?
I was both. I'm serious. I love disco though. I
If
love
you,
disco.
if you were walking home from
I
school
never-
and there was a rock guy,
But here's the thing: when these
I never
rock,
said no to disco though.
when
I
guys
never-
like the Rolling Stones and Queen and
Rod Stewart.
Rod Stewart, they did these disco songs.
Right.
This is that was their biggest hits.
That's right.
And
They're selling out.
It crossed
They're selling
over
out.
to the black
even. I
joints.
was made for
Yeah, I
loving
was
you.
about to say
Kiss.
100%.
I mean, and you used to hear. I mean, Larry Levan used to play "Miss You" at the club.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? Not that I was there.
In
but
New York,
you hear it.
WBLS, Frankie Crocker used to play all that joint.
Yeah.
Rod Stewart, the Queens,
Hell
number
yeah.
Vice it does.
Oh hell yeah.
Yeah.
And those songs get played today more than any of those other
Yeah.
catalog stuff.
Yeah.
You know.
It's funny because when I look at those, when I hear those records, I never think that there were rock
artists.
artists trying to make disco records.
And
They're
it's
selling out a
true.
little bit.
Yeah.
They're making a little EDM over here. Just
And look at how many decades and generations those songs have transcended,
Right.
though, too.
Yeah.
And you still get a forward on your dance. I mean, they're still impactful.
They still work.
I mean, shit. I mean, I mean, never used to play "Miss You" when we were in the Hamptons a lot, and it was packed the floor.
I mean, dude, those were go-to records, like for like the early in the night, trying to
Yeah.
set the mood.
So what if you're like a rock guy and you came out with one of those disco hits, but you hated it, but it just blew up for you? That's the worst thing that could happen to you. Like, I hate my hit, but everybody wants to hear it, and you just want to be like acoustic.
But
Yes.
Never.
But now you feel compelled that you have to perform them in all your in all of your
That's
concerts
how
and your
I
shows.
feel about EDM.
Oh.
Me making an EDM record, which I'm not gonna lie, I chased it for a long time. I tried to make a hit.
You spoke about that.
Yeah, I worked on it. I thought I needed to. And thank God I didn't, because I'd be committed to that sound or that hit, and I couldn't, pursue what I do now, which is more house and everything. Actually, it's a broad range of stuff that I do in the electronic world, but I'm so glad I didn't get an EDM hit. So thankful for it.
Very interesting. So
I would never think. Sorry, I would never think, because I always see you as a house DJ, right?
I mean,
Yeah.
what I mean EDM hit, meaning more like
a big room.
a big room record.
Big room, yeah, that's what
128 banger.
We didn't say that before. EDM basically means a big room,
You can play
noisy, big record that has build-ups and drops.
Thank you.
That's basically what EDM
Yes,
means, right?
the
Would you
formula
agree?
that is going to captivate a large room full of EDM people. It's
So that's the definition of EDM to you guys.
Would you agree? Like, is that the right?
A lot of
It's-
low hanging fruit in the production.
It's a very-
juicy drop. It doesn't.
Yeah.
Not as long as a traditional dance record used to be. Some house records, go up to 12, 13 minutes back in the
It's
day.
predictable.
You got
It's
maybe a
very
5-minute
predictable
song.
formula.
The structure is all very,
all
very
the same. It's a
predictable,
template. They did. There was a YouTube video actually where somebody stacked in Ableton like 5 Martin Garrix records. The fucking waveforms were identical.
Yeah.
He just changed the sounds, and it was like, "There's your fucking template for EDM," And it was kind of like, I mean, he had a form. He made a lot of money off of that fucking template, but it's still kind of corny.
See, I would never think as a house DJ, like at the time when EDM was popping, I would think as a house DJ, it was great for you because it was the opportunity for you to be center stage. Remember? Because we came up together at Tao Group. We were at Tao. We were like, we all did the side room. We did like the restaurant. We did the main room. We opened, we headlined, we did everything. But it was really at that time when EDM was in the forefront, you were getting pushed to the front. You were doing more main rooms.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought it was like, I was like, oh shit, like Lima's getting his shine, and
But I really wasn't. No, I was, but what I really love, house music, was like, no, that's not what works. Where's the Avicii? And I'm like, what? I don't really want to play that soft. That doesn't have enough kicks. It doesn't have drums. It wasn't. It didn't sit with me.
So this is now we're in the conversation of house versus EDM.
It feels a lot fucking different when you hear a house record and you hear
without
And
a doubt.
knowing how,
Yeah.
like,
especially someone like you who's spun it for
Jason's
so many
taste
years.
and flavor and house
Yes.
coming up. I mean, he came
Yes.
up like from Miami. He just has this just feeling to it, and because we used to play together at Jet back in the day, man, and he used to smash it. His taste in house music was second to none. It was amazing.
I will say
Thank you.
the best house.
You're welcome, Jason.
Yeah, I like
Yeah.
this. I like this.
Those are my flowers.
It's it's funny because I've traveled all over the country, and I love New York. but I always enjoy the house in Miami. To me, it's like some of the best.
Yeah.
It's like, it's more light. It's tropical. It
Seasoned.
hits. It's, you know what I mean?
Spicy.
It's just dope. Yeah, it's sexy.
A lot of Latin flavor infused to it,
It's
which
so
just
sexy,
adds to
you
that
know,
just
and it's-
feeling.
it's-
Especially the hotels. If you go to like the pool by the hotel,
Amazing.
you're like,
On
what
like
is
ocean?
this?
Yeah,
I'm
yeah, yeah.
Shazamming everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What is this?
Dude, like going to the shore club, you know, you just in the by the pool, and then you're just hearing like all the mixes, and you're just like, yo, what is this? This is dope. This is dope.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a lot of like really unsung heroes on Miami Beach that are playing those pools that are just nobody knows about them, and they're really good. Not all of them, but I've come across a couple that I'm like, same thing. Like, who are you? I'm like, I'm just I play here on Saturdays and Mondays. I'm like, man, you're excellent. Ah, thanks. And they're kind of shy about it. Like, dude, you're really, really good. Like I've enjoyed these past 3 hours by the pool, and you're just playing cuts that I've never heard before.
Amazing. And then, so like now we're on the topic of house versus EDM. And you just kind of explained your side of the difference between house versus EDM.
I mean, I feel like a couple of you guys did already. Like, you guys kind of said it already. Like, EDM feels a little bit more contrived, and then house is it's just more of a feeling, versus you following this, this typical template, right?
Predictable formula.
Right. House isn't really predictable outside of just the 4 on the floor beat. There's so many different sounds. There's so many different things that are happening in it or can come in and out.
So let's distinguish it right now. What are recent songs that have come out that are hits, that you would consider hits in the past 10 to 15 years, that you would consider a house record? And then I kind of want to go into this. I kind of want you guys to help, kind of define some of these subcategories, subgenres of like house, from progressive house to future house,
Tribal house.
tech house, tribal house. I remember when I was coming up in the 2000s, there was a club called Pangea in New York.
Yeah.
And it was all house music. And I DJ'd the first hip hop party on a Tuesday. And it was hosted by Unique and Kiki, I think. And those guys were known to go to Ibiza. They brought like a European crowd. And this club Pangea, it looked so tropical. It looked like you were in Safari when you went in.
Yeah.
And it was like when you walked in, there was people on congos, like just walking around the club, and they wanted me to mix up house. Well, at the time it was split. It was like hip hop DJ and house. And then there was a point they're like, yo, the house DJ is not going to make it this week. I need you to play some house. So I had to run to 8 Ball Records, right?
H Street.
In New York. And I'm looking at all these categories. I remember seeing tribal house, right?
Progressive. Yeah.
I was like looking at everything, and I'm just like, and I'm listening to everything, and I'm just like, this sounds good. This sounds kind of like what they're playing, And in some of the tribal house, I'm like, damn, this is too hard. This is like way too hard. This is too heavy.
Bongos forever.
Yeah, it was just like so super heavy, And then I would go to like rock and soul, and I would say like, give me some classics, Sumi Sai Say, and all this. I just started stacking up all this house music because I am a hip hop head, So I remember at that time just thinking like tribal, all of these subcategories, and I was mixing hip hop and house and doing it, and it worked somehow.
Yeah.
At the time, and it was a very weird time because it was like new house was coming out. Like I would say like the Bob Sinclair Love Generation was just like coming out, and it was changing everything. It was like crossing over where we started hearing those records in hip hop open format rooms.
Yeah.
And I was like, and then there started to become, instead of having clubs splitting the house and the hip hop DJ in one room, the hip hop DJs were just kind of learning the house. And that's when I was like, I was playing Bob Sinclair, I was playing the house, and I became one of the first dudes in New York that was like, yeah, Crook can play house and hip hop. So let's just pay for him instead of paying for another DJ. So instead of paying this dude, like, instead of paying Crooked $600 and the house dude $600, we'll give Crooked $800.
Yeah.
And he'll do the whole fucking night.
And that was never an I too.
I kind of went through the same thing in the Hamptons with Eddie.
Yeah.
Because me and Eddie used to do the Hamptons together. I used to do the hip hop. I started enough with hip hop. And then he'd do the rest of the night of house. Half and half. But then when Eddie moved to Vegas, they was like, oh, they never could do house and hip hop. They wasn't sure. And they brought out a DJ. and they realized he couldn't. I'm not gonna say who it was. And they realized, why we just let Never do it? So of course Eddie helped me out with the house music,
Right.
And I did the whole night by myself. I did house and hip hop and mixed it up.
Yeah, I mean that whole story. I mean, there's so much to where we started, like in the Hamptons, and I've said this on the pod before. Like I would not have had the formula to lock down my first residency at Light in Vegas if I had not been working with Never all those summers in the Hamptons, hearing him play Back in Black. I mean, this is 97, 98, 99.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Miss You, Back in Black, Sweet Home Alabama type stuff. All this, I'm like, what the fuck? Like, I never, heard Stretch do it here and there, but I got firsthand weekly to see what else I could incorporate into this.
It's like 120 BPM plus. Everything that was 120 plus.
Was what? What?
BPM. Like you're saying he was incorporating
So
things that are 120 BPM.
Never would do like 10 to 1. It would be like some classics, some rock, and hip hop. Mostly
What
a lot of hip.
Some of the rock that you were playing was 100 BPM.
No,
120
no,
BPM.
no.
not
Back
really.
in Black.
No.
90s.
Another one bites the dust.
Yeah,
Back
like
in
90,
Black.
90 to 100, you know?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And, because when I submitted a demo to Andy Massey, and it was all house, and it was like inspired by what I would play at Jet East. And he's like, yeah, I was digging it, but what else do you play? I said, in the Hamptons, that's all I play. I said, we have 2 DJs tonight. I said, but that's kind of my style. And time went on, they gave me a shot, and I knew what he wanted, what he was expecting musically, and I was like, okay, I got to incorporate. I got to be a hybrid of myself and Never, drawing a lot of inspiration from his selections from back in the Hamptons, and I got the gig. So there was a lot of
Interchange.
interchange,
And vice versa with me
synergy
with house music. Like I was clueless until I met Eddie, and he was at the time he was working at Beyond Bass, which was a record store in Manhattan. And I went to the record shop and I was like, Eddie, I need to get the 10 hottest house songs that's out right now. And sure enough, for some reason, those are like the biggest house records of all time. Music Sounds Better for You.
Yeah.
Kings of
Tomorrow finally. Mojo Lady.
Finally.
Mojo Lady.
Mark Van Helden, You Don't Know Me.
Exactly. What else?
Sing it back.
Yeah.
Sing
That's
it
like
back,
the
man.
perfect era of house music to me.
Yeah, to think that all those came out right around that same time, and I think the latest was like Madison Avenue,
Yeah.
Don't Call Me Baby, fucking even like Pete Heller, Big Love around there.
Yep.
Those are all songs you can still hear and love today.
Yeah.
Still,
Whereas all the stuff that happened from that EDM era, I don't want to hear barely any of that shit.
Yeah, right.
I mean,
You don't really hear it. No, you
only
don't hear
a few.
him play it
I'm
at
not
all.
saying it's all terrible, but having lived through that,
The
like when
majority of that doesn't get played.
it doesn't get played. It just shows you that when you have a groove, when you have something funky, soulful, when you have something that feels like a song,
Soothing. It's soothing to your
that's
ears.
what you want to hear for the rest of your life. The stuff that blows up because it's super noisy or super, extreme sounds and extreme drops and all that shit. It's just like
You're getting hit with tidal waves of stuff.
it
You're
was like,
And is there a parallel? Do you think that there's a parallel between hip hop and house with whether or not the song or the production is sample based? Because now a lot of those records that never mentioned, You Don't Know Me is Carrie Lucas Dance With Me, for
they're all
Mojo,
sample.
Super for One,
They're all sample.
Chic,
Yeah.
they're all
Chic.
sample based. Fucking Pete Heller, Stargard,
and that's kind of a reference back to those 70s era stuff because a lot of those
Right.
things are sampling disco,
Chic,
live
Nile Rodgers
instrumentals and
grooves
stuff.
yeah.
So that just points you back earlier on the tree of
Spiller
progress.
Groove Jet was another one.
Yeah,
around that
Yeah,
era, too.
exactly. That was part of
Stardust was Shaka Khan.
Shaka Khan.
Yeah, uh-huh.
Yeah.
I was going to say that when you brought up about being like a hip hop and house DJ together, it kind of reminded me how out here in Vegas that whole thing played out. The way that the biggest house and electronic artists would play in this tiny room in the back. This was one, for a period of time, and the hip hop would be the main room. So the house would be. I'm thinking of mostly
Early 2000s.
Jet
right?
too.
Jet.
Oh,
I'm thinking of Jet right now.
We had in 3400, we had Dead Mouse in a room that holds 110 people, maybe?
Yeah.
Crystal Method, Cascade.
We're all
Nick
coming to a
Manchuri,
room.
That's
Exactly.
crazy.
Fucking
Eddie, you remember
there was a time-
Winter
Mastercraft.
Remember
And
Winter
then it
Music
swung-
Conference?
Yeah.
When we DJ for Light Group, and
Yes.
we did Mint.
Perfect
and,
example.
What was it? Who was it?
It was Paul
Oakenfold, right?
Oakenfold. He wanted to jump on. No, Pete Tong.
Pete Town, yeah.
Pete Tong.
Pete Tong, yeah. He was supposed to do the main room.
Right.
And
Oakenfold did hit them up because he wanted to play as well.
yeah.
And we
And we was going to do the small room, the hip hop in the small room. But then when we got there, they was like, you know what? Never. You gonna do the big room? Peter Tom, you gonna do the small room?
I forgot about
He was
that.
pissed.
During
man.
WMC, during WMC.
WMC, right?
Like
It made
2003.
crazy,
2003.
Wow.
So this is interesting because this is the time during the 90s hip hop was in the small rooms, right?
Yeah.
The library or whatever the
Yeah.
fuck you want to call it.
And then it came out, it switched, and then it switched back. It keeps it
keeps rotating.
It keeps rotating.
In the 90s,
exactly.
in the 90s, you had hip hop in the small room, house in the big room, and
Right.
in the 2000s, like the mashup era started coming up.
Yes.
and then hip hop went into the big rooms, and house went into small rooms.
Right, and then AM passed away, and then House came back into the big
The
room.
2010,
Yeah.
house came back to the big room. Hip hop went to the small room,
Right.
and then kind of around 2015, it was kind of like in the middle.
That's
It
right.
was like
That's right.
There was
Yeah.
a segregation now.
Like
where,
you
know what I
you
mean?
have to part ways. Like all those billions of dollars that EDM generated. It's
Yeah.
like okay, but it doesn't hit the same. But people are like we hate to see it go. But it's like
But
what do
it
we
should
do?
be said,
Like,
but it should be said that there were like a number of quote unquote EDM guys who would play everything, namely
Chucky,
Chucky, Diplo, Skrillex, who
and
else?
did it well. And
Afrojack to a certain extent.
Afrojack,
who were like real DJs.
Real
though, too.
guys who
killed
were
it.
real DJs who would literally just take any tempo, just like every DJ here
Hell
does,
yeah.
and make it part of their set. Whereas you could always tell the difference when, during my time at the Win, when a DJ would come in and was literally had no original creativity, no plan, yet they wanted 4 CDJs. They had all this. Their rider was a million things. They had to have the monitors.
Yellow M&Ms only.
A certain kind of monitor had to be in a certain exact place, and like everything was crazy. And then they come in and they wouldn't do anything. They would just play,
use 2 CDJs.
They would pop the thing in there.
The pre-recorded mix.
Not quite, but it would just be like they definitely had their
playlist.
night planned out.
Playlist.
Yeah.
Without any creativity, no reacting to the crowd, no and then the guys like Skrillex, to his credit, will come around and he's bringing in the Doors and all this
Hell
other
yeah.
crazy shit, and
I remember he knocked everybody. So he did an essential mix that came out, and it was like it caught fire pretty rapid.
he was playing hip hop.
So good.
Like Afrojack at that time, if you remember, was producing hip hop. So there was like there was definitely those guys that were even on the high end that were straddling, but more often it fell on the Limas and Mighty Mai and Eddie and Neva to be that guy that tries to bring it all together. Like what ended up happening is it was up to the resident. I'm sure you've talked about this on the podcast many times. Of the resident,
Not enough. Yeah.
to read the room and to be able to basically play both and be able to read the room and be able to open up for the other guy just the right way. Basically, like you had this big guy coming in, whoever it was, and you wanted to. These clubs for most of that time, in my opinion, of the EDM era, which I think is like 2009 or 10 to like 2015 or 16, around that time. I think it was the local guys that really held it together, because a lot of times these big guys, of course, over time, the cream rose to the top, but there were a lot of them that were paid a lot of money and they would push the crowd away. They would pay them
No love.
6 figures, and the guy would come in and they would be pushing people away.
Yeah, and the
because
savior of the night is the
local guy comes in making $500
$500 or something.
and he's like going to save the night because
But
he
he-
understands how to balance all those factors.
Right.
It used to be funny though, because they'd be like, and to use Milo as an example too, because I mean, just a killer DJ all the way around, but to be like, okay, play hip hop. But then when it gets to the point when Calvin might be walking in, they didn't want to have him walking in and thinking that he's playing at a hip hop club. It's like, okay, he's walking over now. Switch to EDM.
Yeah,
or
then he
something
would
like
play. Then he would play like a acapella over a beat or something. He'd be able to transition up. That was having those tools also.
Yep.
As a DJ, to be able to transition into house or into electronic from a hip hop tempo.
Yeah.
It's funny because like I've always wondered who created the term EDM and where that came from, because it reminds me so much of like open format, where it's this term that didn't come from any culture.
Yeah.
But it's like it's not like it came from any culture.
Just open.
It came from like a boardroom or some
It had to.
like some marketing, right? Like some marketing.
Yeah.
Like
Robert
they-
Sillerman, I think he was a key figure in the inception. Robert Sillerman, what was that company?
STK or something, or SFX.
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 You drop like $1 billion.
He ends up
Right, but I think
he
like
killed himself
again, there
or
was
he
a
got
lot of
sick?
marketing behind
Wait, he
that.
killed himself?
No, he got sick, right? He passed.
I think what happened. Well, I don't know about that. It was a bust. He basically rolled up all these companies into a big company,
Conglomerate.
and then ended up going bankrupt or something. I
Yeah,
have
it
to check
was
the.
Wait, how did he create it?
I don't know if he correct, but at the inception or the creation of this, what I think is just a fucking marketing term, like I said
It's
before,
like a
I think it was something used to make the term electronic music more approachable to the masses and package this whole new thing up. Fucking short shelf life, cookie cutter kind of, arrangements, and just a low-hanging fruit as far as like what people are going to want to pump their fists to. But I know his name was definitely buzzing around a lot at the kind of in that 2008, 2009 time. Whether it came from him directly, but I think a lot of stuff in his world might have been responsible.
I was wondering if EDM emerged because there were like these. It started with these. There were these young producers, up and coming producers. And they were making all of this, they were in their bedroom. They're like studio rats making all of this music.
Crack of Ableton. The Ableton crack. It's great.
And then they had no experience DJing, but they were these studio rats. They were these nerds, electronic music nerds. And they're making all this music. And they were kind of like, selling it to some of the bigger DJs.
Yeah.
And who were kind of gatekeeping.
Yeah.
And I was talking to somebody and I was wondering if EDM was also used to help some of these like non-experienced producers kind of come to the forefront and go past some of these gatekeeping house DJs and house promoters to go around the whole thing.
Majority of those guys gave up, honestly, because so what happened was around that time when the EDM boom was really starting to heat up.
Yeah.
A lot of those kids that were producing those records, ghost producing for the bigger producers, they were fresh out of school at I forget some super expensive music school.
Yeah.
But almost every one of those kids were end up becoming a ghost producer for some.
Was it like Dubspot or something like that?
I forget
some of these
the
schools,
name, man. Yeah, but it was a music school overseas. And every one of those guys, they would the only one that was different was Martin Garrix. That was the only one. Outside of that, most of those guys were ghost producing. For
you link with Scooter Braun and that whole team. I mean, you're going to make it no matter who the fuck is standing in your way, though.
I remember Avicii was like a ghost producer for Tiesto.
Yeah.
And he was like a roadie for Tiesto.
Yeah.
And then he finally kind of came to the front.
He did a little bootleg Beastie Boys shit.
Yeah.
Time to Get Ill. What's the time? With this acid, like this 303 line. And actually, and I'm not trying to name drop, but the ironic thing, I got it from Tiesto because he played it, and I'm like, and I used to call Avicii Avicil because it was like mislabeled. I'm like, this motherfucker Avicil is no joke, man. This record's kind of banging. And and I think what he would say, he did a bootleg remix of I think Kernkraft 400, the Zombie Nation record or something like that. I think that was what kind of got the attention of some of the big guys like.
To this
Tiesto
day,
in
like
particular.
his My Feelings for You.
Yeah.
And also that Bingo Players, that really soulful one when they sample
Cry.
Cry.
Right, just a little bit.
Cry just a little.
Cry just a little. Those two are like my favorite EDM songs, but
with the
nothing
piano
else
in the
sounds
dark,
like
yeah,
that.
yeah.
They're both sample based. They kind of fall more into the bucket of what we're
Although
talking
I will
about.
say, Cassius's the Cassius use of
What was that
Feelings
record
for
from
You
the early
was-
2000s? Calling Me. Eric Pride.
Oh,
right?
on me.
Oh, hell yeah.
Yeah, with the
It's
Steve
basically
Winwood.
I just watched this whole documentary about this. Everyone knows the story of that record, but it actually is more layers than you even think to the complex history of that mashup.
That was technically
DJ
a Daft Punk-
Falcon,
Yeah.
DJ Falcon and Thomas Bangalter,
Yep.
Right.
that actually invented that mix.
An edit. Yeah.
And then like about 8 different people made versions of it, and then Eric Prydz came in and bought someone else's version and then improved on it. But
Wow.
to retrace the whole story, and now he just doesn't want anything
He
to do
hates
with
it.
it.
Right.
Yeah,
Okay,
it's
yeah.
kind of
He
weird.
does?
He doesn't want
Yeah.
people
I
to
could
request
definitely
it.
hear that. I mean, you hear that DJ Falcon in there. I mean, that was that filter. You just filter
Yeah.
that sample, and then like they did like So Much Love to Give. I got so much love to give.
It's the
Yeah, they
same
didn't wanna-
format.
Same fucking shit.
There's a
They
mix.
mixed it.
There's
Yeah,
a
they-
mixtape on the internet that you can where
You can hear the
you can
OG,
hear the
yeah.
original playing. There's a mixtape on the internet on
And-
YouTube where you can hear that part where you actually, for the first time, they played it in public, and it's like a tape of, not a mixtape, it's a live set.
It's a live, yeah.
It's a recording of a live set.
Yeah, they had a couple of different sets that they did, and they were getting like offers to like release it on labels and shit, and they were just like, no, it's just a edit, it's just an idea,
right?
And they left it, and that's when people started jacking the idea.
Wow,
you're like, well, if you're not going to do it,
right?
So
I think it's crazy that he hates that song.
he gets really upset when people request it. I've seen it. I've seen people with their phones like next to him, and he's like,
because the style he plays is so different from that.
Yeah,
it's like
such a
completely
bizarre
different.
thing.
he's submerged
surrounding.
into like a darker.
He's so
dark,
dope,
right?
man. He's so dope, and he just has never like had these impactful shows.
He doesn't do well in Vegas. I mean,
He never.
you know,
He didn't do
no disrespect to him.
No,
but
none at all.
He's an amazing artist, but he
huge
doesn't
fan.
do well here.
Every one of his offshoots and little side projects, every name he goes under, his production. I mean, he's the total package. But I don't know what the fuck it was.
I've seen him kill it at Marquee a couple
and
times.
draw and draw.
I've seen him at the
package.
daytime, and one time he played at the day club, and he played until it was nighttime.
Wow.
He played till about 8 p.m. It was
he's
pretty
he's
amazing.
sick. He's amazing.
But I've also seen him like, it felt to the untrained ear, it felt trancy.
Yeah.
There's no vocals.
Plus in the
he
big-
plays for like a long period of time before you hear the first vocal.
Gotta have that ear
And that was
candy,
kind of what I meant by not only him, because a lot of people, but not looking at the room and trying, because when you're in Vegas, you're playing choruses and shouts and blah blah. You're keeping the action going all the
Then
time.
Don Johnson comes in and requests
need-
"Living on a Prayer." You never know what the
whole
fuck's gonna
vibe up.
happen. This motherfucker.
Joe Lowe is there popping bottles. You gotta keep him happy.
Bad word.
Jolo. We don't
Bad
say
word,
the
bad
we don't say the J. We don't say the J name.
I'll say that. He can't get me. He's hiding there.
Yeah, and it's weird. I mean, not to get on this Eric Prydz kind of tangent, but it surprised me even more because in the beginning, the word was, and which was a fact, is that he wouldn't fly. So it was hard to even get to see this guy who, was making these hits. And then he did also, even with the proper education, with the Pink Floyd.
Yeah.
Fucking Roger Waters, or I don't know if it was David Gilmour or Roger Waters, or collectively, they cleared that shit, which was that was big news in the dance music.
Huge
slash
record.
electro-
It was a huge record.
Yeah.
I remember that shit.
Yeah, that was wild. When word got out that they co-signed it and they gave him full,
That whole era, like what is it? Free Legrand.
Fetty
Fetty
Legrand.
Legrand.
Fetty.
Put your hands up for Detroit.
Fetty Legrand.
Let me
was-
think about
was
it.
Crazy.
Yeah.
That whole era was
Yeah,
insane.
man.
And then that's all EDM to you guys, or no?
No, I don't think so.
This predates EDM.
Well, no. It's
Fetty was like 2000.
That's 2006 or
Yeah.
in Vegas.
So you
though,
would, Fetty Legrand, you would consider that electro?
I would say
more
it was
electro than
yeah.
EDM. I
It's
think
electro.
it
was chunky.
It was
it's-
chunky. Yeah,
chunky
it was.
electro.
Yeah.
And then what do you call it? So then towards the late 2000s into the 2010s, EDM emerged.
Say 2008, 2009.
2008,
Yeah.
2009, EDM emerges. So I still want to know what's the first EDM song that just kind of changed.
I mean, as far as like on radio hits or like
To me,
in
I don't think
electronic music.
I think EDM still exists in Vegas, right? Obviously, because it won't go away because the big room EDM sound is so synonymous with
Yeah.
the cryo,
Production.
confetti.
That's
All these clubs were built
everyone that
around
comes into
EDM
town
and
wants
that
to experience that.
So it's like it's a part of like the opening show at 12:30 a.m. when especially working at any Tao Group property, 12:30 a.m. We got to hit them with something.
Yeah.
Even I can't even imagine maybe 10 years from now they're still gonna want that big EDM build up track that just explodes, and then these girls in like doing the trapeze come out, and then like cryo pops out and confetti pops out,
Flags.
and then it's some mindless song. It doesn't even have to be a song that anyone recognizes, right? It just has
the
to,
energy.
it has
The
to have like
energy.
Little John's voice in the
Shots,
background somehow,
shots.
right? Like we turning up, we turning.
It is true.
Turn it up.
It's part of being a
part of-
DJ.
yeah.
It's part of when you're playing a big room. You have to give them what they want, and that's.
But you
part
see
of it.
how that genre affected.
I disagree too.
I like that you
I disagree too.
That's good.
I disagree.
Nice.
That is a big disservice to the whole room.
Right.
It's you're raping people's ears, and it's the most you're undermining people's tastes. And they could be in the middle of enjoying something like talking to a girl or just having a moment with their friends.
Yeah.
And all these mindless sounds and drops are not necessary. It's a beautiful show. It's a beautiful nightclub. The music should speak for itself to some extent. If you want to get on the mic and you want to hype it up, that's fine. But all these mindless sounds and drops, and it's so predictable.
But it's the formula.
It isn't though.
It's the formula for Vegas right now for a big room.
If you want to say, if that's what you are, if you're that,
it's not what I would.
No. I'm
not,
saying if that's the DJ you want to be, if you want to be that predictable, then that is who you are. But
I've literally
it's more impactful when it's quiet and everyone's paying attention.
I mean, you got to understand. Like, I'm in the main room. They're like, okay, we're gonna do this big countdown where like the chandelier comes down.
Yeah.
It's a flying saucer, and it like people. It's like attacking the crowd, and it's like I have to follow this shit,
Yeah.
And it's like they need the EDM, they need like all of this dramatic, breakdown and build up.
There is music that could do that.
Yeah.
But what I'm saying is like all these like other like.
You're saying it doesn't have to be that.
It doesn't have to be that. It could be a beautiful. Like, listen, a lot I saw, and I'm not gonna say this works all the time, but the first time I saw Black Coffee at Hakkasan was like about maybe a year ago on 4th of July. His intro alone, and I'm not saying it works. I'm not saying it works at all these clubs, but his intro alone made me believe that could hypnotize a crowd.
What did he play? Is one of his hits?
It was nope. It wasn't even
Just
a
an
hit.
intro, huh?
It was an intro. It was like an ambience. It sounded like had like a lot of like I don't know like African. I don't want to say African. It had like an ambience to it. It was like I don't know if they're like animals or something. I'm not kidding, man. It was very like. I'm gonna fuck it up by saying Rainforest Cafe, but something like that where you walk in, you hear like water. It was like
you felt like you were transported to like a
I was
in the rainforest.
I was hypnotized by the sounds that were coming out of his intro, where everyone stopped and was like, "What is happening?" And it went on for about 5 minutes. And when he finally struck that first house kick, dude,
just reset the whole room.
It was hypnotic. I was like, okay, I was judging this guy thinking that he was just this guy that came out of South Africa that was just going to be the one guy that comes out of. It was hypnotic, man. It's everything that I've ever wanted when I go out for house music, which is take me on a ride. I trust you. I'm going to follow you, but just keep me here. And he kept me there, man. I was there till 4 a.m. But I'm saying that intro that type of things can be done with open format. It could be done with big room.
Yeah, I agree.
It doesn't have to be like the Little John nothing against Little John, but it doesn't have to be that predictable.
But these DJs are brainwashed.
Right.
They're brainwashed and they're afraid of their jobs. So they're going to
take a chance.
They're going to repeat the formula that they know because that's the problem when I'm talking about EDM. It's not going to go anywhere right now because all the DJs that I hear in Vegas, I love them. They're so talented, but they're not doing them.
They're just playing follow the leader.
They're literally doing an imitation of what they think a headlining DJ should do, but it's something from like 2015 or something 14. It's so dated.
Care. Maybe they don't care.
But it's not their fault. It's
a balance. It's one of those things that like when I headline at any big room, they're like, "Do you need an intro?" I'm like, "No, I don't want an intro. I don't want that. I just want to." Just get me on and I'm gonna build the room and bring it up. If the opener already has it up, I'm gonna try to bring it up, but then at some point I got to bring it down again and then bring it up.
Reset it.
Right.
But with the production, you could have a cool intro for yourself for the production. If let's say you're playing Hakkasan, they have a giant production. You should say, okay, what is the coolest thing I could do for Crooked?
But the thing is, they're not gonna cater to me and be like, that's the one thing I don't like.
Have you tried?
If
you're headlining Hakkasan, the next time you get a big room and say, okay, this is Crooked's night, Crooked you should take 2 weeks and think about what you want people to feel when you come on. Not just like, not like you
give them production.
Not like you merge.
I think that's great advice.
It's amazing.
That's great advice.
You're creating the first template of a movie theater. You've been sitting in a movie theater watching all these previews to different movie. Now it's your movie.
Right.
What's your template?
Right.
What is the intro? What's you going to draw them into? What is it? You shouldn't just merge into the fabric of what's already been going on. You should.
I'm not. Yeah.
But you should be
I'm
like,
the
this is
anti-
the beginning of my movie.
right.
Yeah, it's interesting what he says because I think
Yeah.
the EDM era, you see how clubs have been like not just Vegas, all over the place. The footprint and the layout of these clubs changed to accommodate EDM music.
Oh, yeah.
Jason talks about all the production stuff, whether it's cryo and this and that. But now the clubs are in an amphitheater, kind of half circle around the DJ booth, all eyes on it.
Right.
But now, so what Jason's saying now, how do you implement these amazing pieces of production? Because now the EDM stuff, although it still exists, there's open format rules again. You know what I mean?
Right.
So it's like seeing these rooms that were built for EDM accommodate open format, and how we can get creative as DJs with these rooms that have been built for a whole different era, a whole different genre
And
of music.
especially because the way tempos are getting more slower now and more groove, like that Black Coffee as an example. And that's why I was kind of curious your take, because I'm in the background music business. I do music for my company is called Playback Prodigy. We do music for all the casinos, a lot of restaurants all over the country, all around the world. And a lot of people, for example, ask for deep house. That's a phrase that I hear a lot from restaurant owners. No one knows what the hell they're talking about. That's okay.
It just sounds like tranquil house.
It's just
That's
like,
what I mean by like
that's
a
a
Rufus the
buzzword.
Soul is probably.
You guys as DJs, I'm sure you get that too. Like, play deep house, And I'm just curious, first, kind of along the lines of what you're asking, is like, how do you define deep house? But also, how does the Black Coffee sound fit into that, if at all? And then finally, do you think the feeling that all the tempo's kind of moving towards like a funkier type of groove in house music and not noisy, the opposite of noisy? Do you think that will catch on enough that it will kick the EDM stuff to the side and become like the sound that people want to hear at the peak of the night?
No.
Okay, so
It's maybe, I don't know. Just because right now I feel like we're too early to give an opinion, because music is still changing. Like a lot of the house music, especially a lot of the popular stuff, it isn't 128 BPM. It isn't 130. It's all 124.
Right.
It's all 122.
exactly.
We've in this era, as far as like electronic music, in this generation, we haven't been there before. And that's kind of spreading to pop music too.
That's what I mean with the Drake and all that.
Right.
Like, it seems like the sound is shifting now towards this 120 like sort of sound, and that's a good thing.
Yeah.
I think it's great for music and creativity.
It's also,
and
it's,
it's
also,
just- yeah.
it's also becoming sample based again.
Right.
Because
Yeah.
you're hearing like this emergence of like tech house and like sampling
Yeah.
of old 90s, 2000s
Oh,
R&B
R&B
songs.
records.
People
Yeah,
want to get
which-
high, they want to get drunk, and they want to fuck. Right? That's what they come here for. That music doesn't work in those big rooms to get just high and to get to fuck and to chase pussy. It doesn't really move all the pussy. It doesn't.
Which one doesn't?
Deep house, like just
120.
really like 120 house, 122. It just really groovy.
Do you
house.
think that now with the Beyonce
No, I
and
don't
Drake
think-
behind it would take it to that level
No.
and
It
bridge
might-
that gap?
It might for some records, you could probably play those records, but I don't think it's going to take over a night in a lot of clubs in Vegas. It's,
But you're going to wait on a remix. That's what it is. Is that when all that Drake shit came out and Beyonce, I was like, all right, this is dope.
Where's
but
the remix?
Where's the remix? Because the remix is going to be effective for the rooms that we're playing.
I think what I'm
know?
saying is like I don't think house, like groovy house, is going to take over the big rooms. I'm not saying the big rooms are going to stay. The big room sound is going to stay, but I don't think there's going to be
It's going to take over an entire night.
an entire night. Not in it might in one venue, but I don't think there's going to be several venues competing all the time for this really groovy. Because I would even say in Ibiza, like they're not all competing for that same sound either. There's just like a few of them, and there's a lot of corny ass music there too. There's a lot of EDM still there too.
Paris Hilton signed a residency there. I mean, if that doesn't,
That says everything.
yeah.
There's particular parties. I mean, there's the island is doing cool stuff, but there's a lot of corny stuff too. And there's a split. There's
Yeah.
parts of the island that are known to be corny. Like you don't want to go there. That's where the corny stuff happens. That's where the mixed bag of hip hop and R&B and whatever goes off, and Europe gets played. But to say that the whole, let's say for Las Vegas Strip, that multiple venues for a long period of time are going to be fighting to play groovy house or just a lower tempo house that's all, I don't think it gets the pussy juices going for these guys.
Unless you go for the biggest names ever. Like, you know, it's like Disclosure will get them there, you know, but anybody under like the obvious in that genre, I think it would be a hard sell.
In this city.
Yeah, in this city. Yeah.
This
Fair point. Definitely.
People they're flying, man. They want to party. They want to they just come here to like let go, and sometimes they're not that deep to let go like the way we would like them to in those rooms. Those rooms, you want to like be submerged in that sound, and not everyone is that open.
Right.
Do you kind of, sometimes I do this, and I don't know if I'm wrong for doing this, but I also look at the EDM era as the era that normalized like non-DJs or the act of not DJing. And where all these con artists could kind of
the sync
emerge.
button was born out of the EDM generation, wasn't it?
Huh?
Wasn't the sync button born out of the EDM generation?
Yeah, the Ableton mix, the pre-mix, like that all emerged because it was like this. The EDM was like a gold rush,
correct,
for any like young, good-looking, like white person, like, you know what I'm saying? Right? It was just like, if you're young and good looking, you could just make an EDM. You could hire someone to make an EDM song, hire them to make a premix, and you just had to kind of know what you look like you're doing. And then it was like this con artist phase.
It was.
And everyone was just like, yo, like, let's book them. Let's book her. Like, oh, twins. Like, oh, this or like this. And like, oh, there's two of them. It was like the emergence of like two DJs.
Triplets? Have you ever seen triplets?
I want to see triplets.
I was just thought about that. I've never seen triplets.
Not yet.
And also, let's not forget that the amazing fucking stopwatch or the countdown clock was born out of that fucking generation.
Oh my
And
God.
those pathetic guys.
Oh my
like
God.
I
There
think
are
Porter
certain-
Robinson was the first I've seen, and I was like, I'm sorry. I mean, I can get it in a festival where everything is kind of structured and you have to, you know, the run of show has to remain tight. But motherfucker, these guys are coming in. You're fucking like 21 years old, if that. There was guys that we had to clear all the alcohol out of the fucking DJ booth. I mean,
That's
nice
right.
guys. I nothing against them. It
That's
is what it
true.
is. It's the law. Danny Avila or Danny Avila. I don't know how you.
Yeah.
And
Madion.
you know, and he was
Madion.
17. Madion. Yeah. And it's like, okay, when he gets in, he has a security escort. We have to remove all the alcohol out of the booth, and this kid comes on and jumps around for 90 minutes, not a second later, not a second more.
They used to have, he's talking about when DJ, it was extremely annoying to see a DJ would have a countdown clock.
What do you mean used to be? It still
Posted
happens.
next to, still do it.
That shit.
I would post
still
it.
do.
I mean, can you imagine it's just so against the art of DJing.
Yeah.
It's so
Right.
anti what a DJ is.
I don't care what you're feeling. I don't care what the mood is. When the time's up, it's fucking up.
Right. My time is so precious that I have to clock myself to measure it. It's so
Fucking
Here's an idea. I want
Annoying.
to see a fucking magician. I want to see some motherfucker disappear on stage and end up like levitating over the crowd.
I want to see some cool shit,
Chris
man. Disappear.
like Chris Angel, like levitating
Yeah,
above.
man, just walk over the crowd. Walk,
As if EDM couldn't get
there was
douchier.
a-
Let's get
Imagine
Chris
that.
Angel in the mix.
That's the douchiest imaginable thing. Chris Angel spinning EDM.
Oh,
levitating.
there's no more douchey.
I'm
That is
surprised
as
he
douchey
never
as it
did
gets.
it.
There's none more douchey.
It's like I feel like this EDM era, right, that we had in the 2010s, I kind of feel like it's reemerging again slowly.
Well,
I've been noticing it a little bit more.
I was going to say this is a sort of related topic, a little bit off topic, but basically EDM and something I've noticed, I've been looking at for years, is that when music turns up tempo, it often coincides with a downswing in the economy. This is going to sound kind of a crazy, but hear me out. Hear me out. I'll keep
this
it.
is deep. This is really deep.
I'll keep it very quick. I don't want to get too boring here.
No,
but basically,
it's super interesting.
If you think about when we're talking about the first phase was 2009. That was right after.
Economic crash.
Job market crash.
Right.
I got laid off that year, and I went out every fucking night.
That's exactly. So what happened was when the economy crashes, you would think that people would be depressed, but what happens is they want to party and they want to escape.
Yep.
And so tempos get faster. And then what's crazy is in this recent, of course, COVID was like a anomaly, but after COVID, they were giving out all this fucking free money. You know, the government gave out, and what happened? The tempo was turned down to the 70 beat per minute.
We're going back up soon.
Like like kind of like zoning out on drugs, whatever drug you're doing, numbing yourself.
Yeah.
And now economy's tanking again. What's happening? You got the Beyonce, you got the Drake, you got all these.
Interesting.
The pop music is getting faster and faster, so it's kind of interesting.
We used to say, like, when the slow, like the 60 and 70 BPM stuff, I used to say, a lot of us used to say, oh, the best thing about that is you could double time it and make it danceable, and you could play it, and people could still connect to these songs that they like, but we're not going to fucking fall asleep. I wonder if the opposite is happening. Like, Beyonce puts an album out, Drake does, and all the trap DJs are like, the best thing about it is you can halftime it.
Yeah, but yo, that's crazy that you say that, because I have this feeling that it's going back into that era.
Yeah.
And a couple of things happen. It's just like you see kind of hip hop moving away. It's like hip hop is kind of getting pulled out.
Yeah.
The music is not resonating. There isn't any any hits that are coming out.
No.
You know?
This could be like the worst summer. You say this every year, how bad hip hop.
We've been saying
Wait a second.
Yeah.
So is
Summer-
hip hop in an EDM phase?
But this year,
Is hip hop in an EDM phase right
hip hop is in a weird
Yeah,
phase.
kind of with
This-
like, it's more danceable, like Lotto, big dick energy, and all that
Yeah,
kind of
but
shit.
there's
It's like,
no-
I don't want to say those words.
You just said it. You just said it.
Fuck. Why
but
did I
there's
say
no,
now-
there's no summer
Excuse me,
hits
you take
in
requests? Do you have big
2022. This is crazy.
Huh?
There's like no big hits in 2022 for the summer.
Not really.
Nothing. Hip hop. I mean, there's
No
FNF.
hip hop summer. Hip hop songs.
Glorilla might have the biggest song, but no one really knows it. It's like the biggest hip hop
It's like-
song. Yeah, it's
Like a hood-
FNF.
like a hood record.
Yeah, it's a hood record. It's big, but it's just like it's you know
Women
like
women right now are running hip hop.
Yeah.
There aren't
Yeah.
too
Women
many
definitely.
men making any-
women and
any
Drake.
dope. Yeah, that's
women
it.
and Drake.
And
Sade. He's Sade. He's the
doing
male
house
Sade.
now.
He's the male Sade.
He's the male.
Interesting. I've never heard that.
Shah Drake.
You know, related to that though, about the EDM, one more point about that whole economy thing is that this should be said, because we're bashing EDM. Of course, it's like an easy target, but EDM saved Vegas, dude.
Yeah.
EDM
did,
straight
yeah.
up and down saved Las Vegas. People need to remember, because when the crash happened, anytime a crash happens in the United States, Vegas gets doubly crashed, okay? When the upswing happens, Vegas goes double up. It's like we're like a boomerang on the end of the economy. So when things are going well, it goes great here, but when it's bad, it goes really bad here. And the real estate crashes, everything crashes. In the midst of that crash, that's when this EDM was born. And all these people came out of the woodwork from mostly California to spend thousands of dollars in these clubs to see all these guys like Guetta and Calvin.
Where was Guetta at?
I was there. I opened for him.
Eddie,
that night.
this is
That's when
a
I showed-
famous Eddie story. Yeah,
he's-
Oh shit! Yeah.
I don't
Tiesto.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was like the first big Guetta show, and Eddie opened for him. Okay. And then later it was he moved over to win. But my point is that, you know, it was you get the point.
I want to hear the Eddie story.
You know the Eddie story.
I know.
I probably said
I think
it on
our
the-
listeners
Yeah,
want to
he-
hear this story.
He was just difficult, man. You know, I mean, in a nutshell, real quick, you know, his tour manager, an amazing, really, really, really good guy. So, and I'm sure, and listen, and I've heard a lot of great things about David Guetta from people that worked with him very closely. So maybe he was just having
now
a
you're
bad
gonna proceed to shit on him. Go ahead.
Now I will shit on him. Well, okay, so he.
Yo,
so John-
like I don't want any motherfucker to intro me like I've heard a lot of great things about Crooked. I heard he's a great
motherfucker.
guy,
Word on the street.
But
Shit, yeah, that was the worst experience dealing with a headliner, and I haven't had any really. Everybody's been super cool for
and
the
it was
most
like,
part.
and it was right when opened. It was
Yeah,
like
so
really-
New Year's Eve, we had Tiesto. I did both. I opened both nights. So, and he's just always just a pleasure. You know, he's a great guy. And New Year's Day, we did Guetta. So, you know, I'm playing. I find out when I get there, he wants every fucking piece of gear associated with Serato removed from the setup. Like
Nice.
he doesn't even if you pull your laptop, he wants the box removed from the chain on the mixer. okay, I don't find this out until I get there.
He doesn't want to smell it.
I think it was Karma. I want to say it might have been Karma. Somebody bought me like CDRs or something like that. I was able to burn 2 discs. Okay, so I'm like, okay, when the time is right, and Matty O was doing the sound, and he's like, all right, listen, about a half hour, maybe 20 minutes before he's scheduled to come on, switch to CDs. We'll pull your laptop. We'll pull the Serato box. I'm like, okay, all right, bet. You know, it's his night, and I'm not being a dick. I'm glad I got the CDs so I can accommodate. So now I fast forward a little while. I switched to the CDs, and my laptop and the Serato box is completely removed. And I burned 2 CDs with enough music to get me by, even if it was a few minutes. How many
songs? Like,
I would say maybe 8 songs on each.
Okay.
On each disc, maybe, if that, maybe 6 to 8 songs on each disc. And I'm like, all right, cool. So I'm on CDs and all good. Hey, David's going to be 15 minutes late. Okay, I got extra. That's what I did. Hey, David's going to be another 20 minutes late. All right. Hey, David's going to be another 20 minutes late. I'm like, this motherfucker. And then I'm about to consider playing a song for the second time because I'm just about exhausted on what I can do. Also in the booth from his rider was a Pioneer Effects 500. Okay, remember with the little silver box with the wheel and you had the little EQ, yeah. And so he shows up, and he was super nice. Oh, sorry I'm late. Da, 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 da. And
his imitation is part of the story.
Sorry I'm late.
Play that up.
Yeah. So he played, and really, I mean, it was like I think Carl Cox was there that night. Wow. I think Claude Von Stroke was there that night. You know, there was some notable house people and electronic notables there. Yeah. And he was just proceeded to play like the fucking LMFAO records, which I guess were big, but I think people were still expecting a little bit more.
Right.
Like even just play like Just a Little More Love, which was like his first hit before he kind of exploded. And whatever. So I go back down.
Like Sexy Bitch was hit already?
It was probably around that time.
No,
yeah.
It was.
Yeah, yeah. And so I make my way back to the booth, and he's like, oh, I said, I'm here when you need me. I said, David, this is your night. You play as long as you need to play. I said, and I'll be here when you're ready. I couldn't have been any more accommodating or professional with this guy. And so he's like, oh, maybe 2 more. And I'm like, okay, cool. So he finishes, and I'll never forget now. Yeah, I forget what he finished on, but I'll never forget the record I played. It was Cedric Gervais and Sharam. They did You Don't Even Know Us. It sampled the Armand.
You Don't Know Me.
Yeah, but it was a little darker, a little more chuggy, and that was my first thing. So he leaves me with like a feedback loop. On, you could jack the depth of a delay, and it'll just keep going. And you could stop all your decks, and that's what he left me with. And I'm like, I don't care. It was on beat. I can mix out of this. Mm-hmm. I mix my record. He comes back to the booth, and he like hits me. He's like, "What the fuck are you doing? Are you fucking stupid?" I said, "Excuse me." Why would you do something so fucking stupid? I'm like, David, you say stupid one more time, I'm going to embarrass you worse than your DJ set just did. And then Matty O gets between us, and Matty O goes, Eddie, sweat it. He's like, don't sweat it. He's like, you had a fucking better party than he did, and just go back on and kill it. And I'm fucking heated because I was fucking chugging Jaeger a little earlier too. And I'm like, this motherfucker starts hitting me and calling me stupid. I'm like,
oh, wow.
What was he angry about though?
His ego got the best of him because he wants this Elvis has left the building.
He wanted silence.
Dead silence.
I see.
David Guetta is officially off and gone. And now this fucking local peasant goes back on. Fuck you. Yeah, so
you mix into
how dare you
into his effects.
Into his effects, and
he dared to match the beat, the tempo of his effect on the way
how
out.
How dare your record touches my record? Okay, well, crossing swords.
I want to know the details. How long was the effect going on for before you jumped?
Long enough, bro.
Like 90 seconds.
It's time.
90 seconds.
Oh, I would say a good 90 seconds.
Okay,
I would say a good 90 seconds. Funny thing is, and I won't mention this DJ's name. He's a very good friend of mine. I get a call the next day. He's like, hey, you got any new David Guetta records you could send me? I'm like, who the fuck you been talking to? And he just starts laughing. He's like, dude, let's go to dinner tonight. He's like, I'll share this story. He's like, and I'll tell you my David Guetta story. He's like, they were on the same agency, which was AM only. And they did an AM only showcase at WMC. Yeah. David Guetta played before my buddy. My buddy's just in the booth, not ready, doesn't have he was playing CDs at the time, doesn't have CDs out, doesn't have his headphones out. David Guetta just shuts the music. He's like, okay, you go now. They're on the same squad. This is to represent their agency, their management company, everything. And he left this dude in such an awkward position. And he's like, David, are you serious? That's how you're not gonna even giving me a heads up? And he just left the booth. And then he's like, the funny thing is, I played before him the next night or later on during that WMC. But I even gave him the courtesy of just saying, hey, David, you got a minute left on this. I'm done. He's like, and you can keep that CD or something like that. He's like, why would you do this? I can't believe you're doing this to me. Why wouldn't you let me know? He's like, fuck off, basically. Yeah, I mean but I mean, listen, but again, like, and I would share that story with people that used to work closely with him and his production team, and like, he's really a sweetheart. I'm like, okay, well, he wasn't that night. Yeah. And nobody should ever do that to another DJ.
Yeah.
Fucking putting hands on and calling him stupid. Like,
that's
fucking
crazy,
really,
man.
fucking go fucking.
I heard a story that he actually shut the music off and he got on the mic and he's like,
that's right. That's right. Thank you, everyone. Good night. Shuts it off. Like
that was another time. That was another time.
No, same night. I forgot about that part.
Yeah,
that's right. He did do that. He did
shut the music off.
You have to turn everything back on, like the mixer and everything?
No, not that. But he just made a dead silence and he announced his departure, and that's it. And honestly, if that's
did he do that after you or before? Like after you started?
After this little interaction,
yeah.
He did it.
So he shut your record off.
Yeah, I think he did. Yeah, I think
so.
He did.
After he left the effect on, that he wanted to leave on for
leave it on. Just get the fuck out of the building.
And then you mixed your song into
that.
And then he said, "Are you stupid?"
Because you know what? I'm not David Guetta. You know what these guys don't understand? If fucking Tiesto was going on after, you want to do that shit, but I'll get my ass handed to me probably. And it just wasn't cool. It was very unprofessional.
So then you played your song, and then he said, "What are you, stupid?" And then
he's like, "What are you doing?" He's like, "Hey, what the fuck are you doing?"
And then he
interrupted his outro. Interrupted his outro.
His fucking echo.
And then he shut off your song, got on the mic and said,
"Hey, thank you, everybody. Good night."
So, okay.
Now I'm like, we done here?
Get has left the building.
Fucking jerk off. I don't. I'm sorry. I'm channeling old Eddie, and I don't want to do that. I'm trying to be better.
I'm enlightened.
I'm trying to keep my temper in check.
I didn't know there was a new Eddie.
There definitely is. Come on, man. Come on. There definitely is. At least in public.
Oh yeah. Innocent Pack, Pee Wee Eddie, like that. That's the new Eddie.
Well, no. I mean, it's just I'm running a company now. I don't want to go down that road again. And listen, and if that was just an off night for him, I don't hold any hard feelings. I hope he's in a better place. But that shit, David, don't do that shit, man. That's not fucking cool, man.
Don't worry, you can go cry on his $200 million.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Try not to lose sleep.
Yeah,
fucking Moby's doppelganger just fucking interact.
Yeah, like he
actually I had a hair back then, so yeah, that was fucked. Yeah, that was fucked up though, man. That was a rough.
What a year! Way to start the year.
Yeah, happy New Year, you cocksucker.
Oh man. So I want to go back to this timeline.
Holy shit.
Are we still in the 70s? I forget.
Holy fuck.
After Funk Boogie.
So 1979.
D-Train
what
comes along. Yeah.
In conclusion,
there's an epidemic of R&B 90 samples in
dance music.
Oh, go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah.
Is that what you're going to say? Or?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's really, really bad.
Well, it's that big one that's starting it.
It's the A craze
one.
There's an epidemic of that's what I think the kids are calling house or tech house.
That's tech house, yeah.
Yeah, and it's become like there's just no originality to it. There is some. That's not all bad. I'm not saying.
By the way,
but it's like another call on me template.
It's not tech house.
That ain't tech house, by the way.
Well, define what. Help us. Explain what is.
It's not the tech house we're used to.
What is real tech house? Define it for us, because I've never been.
But they are
clear.
calling it tech house. They're calling that genre of music, which is these R&B 90s songs and 2000 songs that are looped and just repeated.
Yes. And do you think Beatport?
They're calling it tech house.
Beatport, because they've been the culprit of a lot of mislabeled genres. Like you go to like the new disco section or whatever it is now, or you go to the house music section. Some of the shit in these playlists is so far off that I feel like people are following the lead of like a Beatport where. I don't know who's doing. Like Helen Keller is doing their fucking, their metadata. Or whatever.
So on one hand, Beatport definitely is the culprit of some of that, but also a lot of these kids that are coming up in these, you know, in these different scenes, they don't have the proper education. So a lot of them are thinking, oh, it sounds like that one record I heard this one time. This is what I'm going to do. Or they thought they invented a fucking genre, and then this is what they're going to call it.
It's an epidemic.
Yeah, it's been so bad.
But I mean, the like the Cherish thing, you know, there was also years ago, like not many years ago, I forget who the artist was. There was the Mary J. Blige. Let's get it,
Yeah.
and that was popping on like the underground.
I think
even
it's
back
like
then.
a
But now I think it's just.
But the
commercial
but the
vibe.
big one was
Diplo had a big
with the
one.
Diplo.
Oh
one,
yeah,
right?
with the
side
the
piece.
the J.
Sybil or Jade.
Jade,
Yeah.
Don't walk away.
Don't walk away. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
And
then,
that's couldn't be farther from. There's nothing tech housey. I mean, are
No.
people calling that tech house? Because I was like, that's
doubt it.
not
no,
even
no,
close.
but
yeah.
I think it was the side piece one.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
you,
Side piece
you
one, yeah.
stay on my mind.
On my mind.
Yes, on my
Oh
mind.
shit.
That I think that was
No,
the
that's
first
a 702. Stilo.
Stilo, but it's
Yeah.
side, isn't the
artist.
the artist's side piece?
702.
Side piece, yeah.
Yeah, side piece.
Side-
Yeah.
House one, yeah.
Side piece and Diplo.
Yeah, side piece and Diplo. I think that's the one that started the whole thing, and then
Yeah.
the craze was just like
Hey, Craze,
double.
yeah.
It just doubled down on it.
Yep.
And then everyone's like, okay, let's just do a bunch of these records because we could just go back to all of these R&B songs and loop all of these parts.
Yeah.
Tech house, what I consider tech, or what I was used to tech house was like, it was groovy, but there was like elements of techno, and not, I don't want to say techno, but just like interesting samples in there.
Yeah.
They're like, oh, okay, this is kind of quirky. It was like house, but with a quirky tech feel to it.
It was fun. It was really, really fun.
Can you give me an example? What is it like a tech house?
Format B.
DJ Anna, I love. She does some.
Yeah,
like
just
Brazil.
I couldn't tell you any popular.
Even Nick Fanciulli would do a lot of that back in years. That was kind of his.
It was there's a guy named Koyu.
Was it sample based?
Not really.
No.
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 How about vocals? Like
There'd be some.
There'd be
but-
vocals, but it wasn't to that extent.
minimal vocals.
Yeah.
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 So it was like house, but it had like a techno edge to it.
Yeah.
But it wasn't straight techno, right? So techno would be kind of blocky. It would go on for a while. You know, like the intro would be like very blocky, and then it would get to some pattern that would change, and you have to be hypnotized by that sound, right?
Yeah.
And then there was house, which was, it could be groovy or just chunky, 4 on the floor. And then there was just like this one little pocket of music that was housey. It was had a house groove, but then it had interesting sounds that would go off in the background. That was tech house. It was like, even Steve Angelo, before he, joined Street House Mafia, he had a lot of good tech house.
Clack, I think it was called. Yeah, he was a beast.
He had
He
great-
was that. He was the guy. Like that's why I loved all those guys. Like Steve Angelo would be like more of an underground tech house flavor. Axwell was more the housey, and Sebastian Ingrosso a little bit more trancey to his stuff.
Yeah.
And then when they came together from all these different worlds and different sounds, created something that I couldn't stand.
Oh man! Wait, can you guys break down like techno? You guys are saying tech house. So honestly, if we could rename this new genre, it would be like loop techno or something, right? Or loop house or something, right?
I mean,
Because it's all based on loops, isn't it? It's like
Not-
90s era loops.
it's weird because it has different elements. It has more elements in place with like minimal house a bit.
Yeah.
But also, what's the other? Dirty Bird was doing it a lot back in like 2016. It was just basically, the next phase of that stuff.
Right.
Because it was like super minimal type of stuff with the bass line and maybe a couple of synths here and there. They just started adding, fucking vocals, R&B vocals to it.
I mean, to me, it's a good warm up. It's a really good warm up. Like,
Yeah.
But
it's
is it
good-
this
It's really great for
generation's-
warm up.
No, I have no, I'm not.
Yeah.
I'm not.
I mean,
sure.
Vice has one, right? It's like the bump one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, B2K.
Yeah.
Yeah. But is this? But okay. But now, generationally speaking, we are now 20 plus years past like some of those records we spoke about earlier with
Yeah.
the Mojo and the. It's still sample based. I mean, they're just using different elements where they
Right.
would use little guitar grooves or little, filtered
The
this,
beginning of
filtered
the
that.
song,
They're
yeah.
just, it's still sample based, but I don't know. It just doesn't hit the same. But I mean, yeah, but it's still. I mean, is
I
this
mean,
just the
I'm-
new way?
I'm
Sample
not
based house sounds.
complaining too much about it because there's some I do like, but
Right.
you know, when you go to the well too many fucking times and everybody wants to go to that same well and do the same exact thing with it.
It's redundant.
That's what I mean. When I mean epidemic, meaning like there's no.
It is an epidemic, though.
It is an epidemic.
There's like two of them every
feel like
week.
There's
like two new ones every week.
There just needs a little bit of creativity. People
Right.
need to take some shrooms. Again, take
Yeah.
some shrooms, get lost, listen to your head.
And
Listen
I feel
to
like
what-
they need a lot more education.
So do you think that this new formula of something like that is picking up where EDM is leaving off? This is the transit
kinda like
with
this.
this cookie cutter arrangement.
I see that as a bridge.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, so when I see like when Beyonce comes out with "Break My Soul" and Drake comes out with an album with a bunch of like up tempo house inspired music, and then like you have '90s R&B being looped and made into like tech house, right? Those are to me are bridges that kind of bond a hip hop room and a house room or an EDM room.
Yeah.
So I think those are the reasons why I think those records are important. You know,
And
for me as an open format DJ.
We haven't spoken about the G House stuff either.
Oh, and or really like Purple Disco Machine and that whole sound.
True.
Because to me, that's where what's interesting now is that basically pop music via Dua Lipa
Yeah.
and The Weeknd to a certain extent are basically doing new disco, you know? And so Purple Disco Machine, who I think is a great artist, producer, who, you know, we use a lot for our background music is a great bridge to kind of, it's dance music, it's poppy, it's
a lot of
house,
Ear Candy, yeah.
but it's mainstream. There's a pathway there happening as well.
A lot of filters.
Yes.
Yeah.
Sped up.
Yeah, and a lot of samples in it too. He uses a good amount of samples too. Purple Disco.
He's a big clock guy too.
A big
No
what?
way.
Yeah.
A big what?
Does he play here in Vegas? Where does he play?
He played downtown with.
Yeah, I seen him in
and he
Commonwealth.
had
Yeah.
The clock. He was like down to.
Is
the
he
minute.
really?
Wow.
Oh yeah.
Man. Because you're inspired by this era. I mean, you can hear the inspirations, whether it's Larry Levan or Nicky Sian, whatever, that disco era. Your name is fucking Purple Disco Machine, first of all. But that era was marathon DJ sets, 10-hour sets, and your sound is inspired by it. You have disco in the name, but you're going to put a fucking a countdown timer.
These kids nowadays don't know about
that fucks me up a little bit. That's
This is what I
disappointing.
don't understand.
This is like a new era for me. Like I've never heard the term. Like never have you heard like these clock DJs?
Nah,
what are
this
you
is
calling
new.
them? Countdown
No,
DJs.
they'll put a clock.
So they're
right-
gonna clock
right
and
here.
like
It's countdown.
Yeah.
We just
For
call
them,
it genre
they-
clock house.
They do like
Clock
an hour
house.
set or 2 hours.
2 hours.
Sometimes
Yeah.
90 minutes. I've seen
Sometimes
90 Porter
90 minutes.
Robinson 90
Yeah.
minutes.
And then as soon as
Sometimes I'm
that
like,
90
this
minutes is up,
motherfucker.
it's like I'm done.
Yeah.
Done.
No,
Literally.
they're like they can't
Yeah.
wait. They're like waiting. They're counting it down, and they know what record's going to be the last record. So they just
Wow.
play it out.
Is it because that when did that start? During the EDM era?
Festival.
Oh
yeah.
fuck yeah, festival. I could, like I said, I could see it in a festival when there's a run of show with
Yes.
multiple DJs. But when you're headlining, and I'm sorry, I think it is generational to a certain extent. I've done many nights with Cascade, and he is vibe.
He's a real DJ.
Real
Yeah.
DJ.
Cascade is a real
he's
DJ.
done 4 or 5 hour sets.
Right.
He's like, I just want to keep going.
No shoes on. No
Afrojack
shoes
does the
on.
same shit. Yeah,
It's true.
Wolfgang Gardner too is another, or I think it was, or Morgan Page, one of those guys is a big barefoot DJ guy. But but to pass a compliment to guys like Afrojack and Chucky too, who
Same.
came more from that EDM era.
Yeah.
Afrojack has done sound checks that were 2 hours and had the fucking whole staff rocking.
Yeah.
Like while they were get cleaning the club, and then he'd play a 4 hour set, and he went against the grain. Look, I think that's how it should be, but like, I got to give those guys credit, and definitely Cascade.
kids-
But like
And
some of
rest in
these,
peace, Eric Morello.
yeah, he's got that New York, that marathon
set.
DJ in him. The Danny Tenegli's of the
Nowadays,
world
man,
and shit like
these-
that.
These
This is
kids
what I don't
consider
understand.
5 hours or 4 hours a marathon set. So
We look forward to, like, when you're coming up. When I was learning to DJ or to learn to put these records together, I would dream about that. Like I still get off on it. Like if I play like any show, I don't want to get off. I want to close for myself.
Exactly.
I loved it. I'm
But the later you get, whoever's still in front of you is fucking with you hard.
Right.
Like, and now it's like, I know you trust me. You're here this late. Now I can spread my wings and leave it a
so
little more
much to
and see
say. You got
what
so much to say, right?
Yeah, that's my favorite part of the night is that like towards the end, like, when you could just test the waters with some different shit.
It's funny because, like, you know, you asked me earlier, like, you know, what kind of DJ do you want to be? Do you want to be this guy who does the formula for the club and do all of these things? And like, I want to DJ from open to close because there's just so many layers.
So much you can do.
Like at my age and like experience level, I just have so many layers. So like I talk with Eli Escobar so much about this, and he's like, I hate a 2-hour set.
Yeah,
I never want to do a 2-hour set. He's like, I want to DJ as long as possible, and I want to do from open to close. And I'm like, yo, that's exactly where I'm at in the stage of my career. Is like, I don't want to have to DJ for 2 hours and be like, this is me. Like this package is me.
Right.
When it's like, I really want people to come in. I want to read them. I want to
paint your own picture.
I want to paint my own picture. There's so many things I want to play in the beginning of the night and at the end of the night.
Right.
And it's like, there's so many layers to that. And I can't really fit that all into 2 hours. So that's my biggest dilemma right now, is that everywhere I go to DJ, they want 2 hours of Crooked. And I'm like, I don't want to go in and be like, hey, can I open? And then take work away from an opener and do all of this shit. But it's like, that's kind of where I'm at. But I think it's funny you guys are bringing up this clock thing, because I really think it stemmed from the EDM era.
Yeah,
definitely.
When they had like a premix, or they had like
A playlist.
Festival.
These guys that were very prominent and very active in the festival world were contaminating nightclubs with this fucking festival approach to DJing. Festival sets are festival sets. Nightclub sets are nightclub sets. There is a journey involved, and it's not all just the drops and the production.
Well, festival's like a one-way.
You should look forward to them as a fucking DJ. It's like, because it's two different things entirely. And stop playing festival sets in fucking nightclubs. They're uninspiring. They're boring.
Seriously.
And there's no takeaway. I don't remember shit. I don't remember any records that these guys played in that I played with in the EDM era. But I remember hearing Rui da Silva, Touch Me, President's Day Weekend, Carl Cox playing with Danny Teneglia, you know, him dropping that and me hearing it at Twilo for the first time. I remember that, and I was on a lot of drugs. You know? Just saying.
Well, the other side of that issue, what you're saying about the 2-hour set is, and I think about this a lot because, you know, over the years of booking DJs here, one of the things that happens is if you're forced, because it's still basically the case where you are forced into that 2-hour block or 4-hour block or whatever it may be. I always tell people, come out the gate swinging, man. Like, don't hold back. Like, you're going on at midnight. The party started out in 4th gear, okay? Like, don't think that you have to warm it up, because if you're being forced into that slot, we all know the reality of people in Vegas. They'll judge you on your first 5 minutes.
Oh, yeah.
Every nightclub owner here or manager is going to like watch the first record, the first 1 or 2 records, the way the crowd reacts, the way you react, and then they make their judgment, and then they go on with the rest of their night.
Yep.
And that judgment is what it is, you know? So I always tell people, if you are forced into that 2-hour slot, to come out as if it's like the peak of the night now.
That strong 45.
Right.
Yeah. See, I disagree.
I disagree too.
Yeah.
Am I wrong?
But
you're wrong.
No.
I like the
he's
resitting of the room, but I see both sides for sure.
Yeah, no, he's right, and you know, there's a group that specifically created a formula of what he's talking about, and I'm not going to say the name of the group. They created this formula from this one DJ. You can bleep out his name. They created this formula from this one DJ, which was basically when you get on, you play the biggest record at 12:30 a.m. and we hit them with cryo and everything. You play all the biggest records for 10, 15 minutes, and then it really doesn't matter what you do after that.
Yeah.
You know, and in the main rooms when I was there, that was literally some of the formula, where the first 20 minutes would be like nothing but bangers. And then it was just like filler. And then like, oh, it's 3 a.m. I should pick it back up again. And then like, you know, you kind of pick it up. And I'm from a different era where I would want to come in and I would want to I want to feel them out and I want to build it. And you could 100% do that, especially when the room is so packed, where you can just impact them. This is the same formula that they're still using now. And I'm like these openers and closers and some of these local residents that are in Vegas right now, and they got these headlining.
Yeah,
they're not being themselves.
Right.
They're literally imitating. They're imitating something that's completely dated to me. Yeah. But it's still effective to the nightclub, the Vegas nightclub formula.
The experience.
Exactly. And it's, to me, I'm just like, I go out and I don't want to go out in Vegas anymore because I'm hearing everyone kind of sounds the same.
But don't you think that a lot of us DJs were beaten? Like, I used the term a lot probably on this podcast before, especially when we're talking about looking over our shoulders.
I have no doubt.
You know what I mean? And it's like, you know, you just mentioned that example. Like, this is our thing. Like, yeah, we're here to perform a service and stuff like that. But why? Like, look at how it's conditioned. For not for the better, conditioned us as artists and as DJs.
Personality.
Like, and that's why when we would have the conversation about like all the Twitch stuff during shutdown, I'm like, you know, guys like Neva, myself, Rich. I mean, we've seen it. We've been through the fucking trenches, and you know, along comes the shutdown, and obviously, you know, you always want to look for the silver lining. The silver lining is like, it's so beautiful to watch DJs show you what they can do without having to look over their shoulder at some douchebag host or fucking Don Johnson wants to hear this, that, or the other. And it's like, you just be yourself and you play what you want. Nobody's going to tell you shit. And it's like, this is what it's all about. And that's what I loved most about, you know, the shutdown in Twitch. Unfortunately, now clubs about to open up again. It's like, okay. Yeah. How much did they spend?
I wasn't disagreeing with what you're saying as far as starting in fourth gear. I just don't think it's got to come out as predictable. I don't believe it just has to come out as predictable as, or maybe that's just the way I see myself.
It doesn't have to be as formulaic.
Well, listen, on a personal level, of course, I would much rather go to a space where what we're saying happens, where a DJ is playing exactly the thing they want to play.
Right.
That's the party. That's the room I want to be in as a listener. But the stakes being what they are in these big rooms.
Between management and like the attention span of the masses that come to Vegas type clubs, it's like, do you really want to reset them? Do you think they're going to have the patience to wait for you to build it? So I see, like I said, I see both sides. I prefer, I'm really in tune with Rich because as far as like doing the whole night, I love doing the whole night. You know, for better or worse, any success or failure that night falls on me. I took it in the places where I felt I needed to go. Sometimes it works. Sometimes I have an off night. But I do like, as far as headlining and stuff, that idea of resetting the room. But it's easy. It looks good on paper sometimes, but the actual execution sometimes, unless you've mastered it, you know, especially in a market like Vegas, I think it's you know, it might work, it might not. If you like,
how different would you sound if you're headlining? Let's say, I'm just going to say something I don't work for. Let's say Excess. You're headlining Excess Saturday night, and you come out with a completely different sound. Like, I think everyone would be paying attention. Like, just grab those 3 minutes and
like
build
what
this
Black
tension.
Coffee did.
Yeah, like
I know, but the thing is, like,
I don't mean keep it deep. I'm not even saying play something off the wall. I'm just saying, like, really build up that moment of tension, and then give them that, but not just come out like.
But you need the freedom and the confidence that your job is intact. That's the problem. That's the main problem. That's why when I hear these DJs that are out in Vegas right now, I love them. I think they're so talented, but it's like, it kills me because I'm like, you're so much better than this, and you're doing this formula, and it's like, to me, I'm just like, I know why you're doing this formula. And it's like, you know, you're doing it to make money, and this is your time to shine.
And then playing it safe, basically.
And then,
job security.
And you know what it is? And the way Vegas works, it's like, it's really about who is the loyal soldier.
That's job security.
You know, and in 3 to 5 years, they're going to be like, finally, like, we trust you now. You know, you could do whatever you want. Okay. And then, you know, so that's why I get it. You know, like, so I'm like, yo, like, you know, play your role and do your shit, you know? Even for me, like, to do some of these rooms, it's like, I don't want to do it. I don't want to keep doing that same formula. It's so it's just boring to me. It's draining to me. It makes me like not want to DJ.
So
I feel
create a different formula for yourself.
I think, and the fact that Jason is saying this is interesting because, and it's amazing. It's an amazing study because now on one side, I mean, Jason has been with Tao Group for many years. Probably now he's exceeded, you know, our time with Light Group and stuff like that.
For sure.
Yeah.
But he's also the guy that's saying this. So obviously he's saying it. He's been around for forever.
Right. I work at Tao Beach. I have 4 different intros for Tao Beach. They're all different.
So maybe there's something to this. It's like this guy that feels this way and is like, why don't you just do it this way?
Why are we not doing it?
This is a guy that's had job security in a very competitive market at a very intense, high-end hospitality, nightlife brand like Tao Group, and
But that's
he's still rocking and rolling.
But
I'm telling you, you
beyond
can
that.
build your own. I'm saying when I say intro, I'm saying captivate this room without don't punch him in the face within 30 seconds. How about you build a core? How about you build like a landscape of sound where everyone's like, what the fuck is going on? Because I've seen some of these guys do it. I've seen some of these trance guys. There's one guy I know that comes in and his intro is like 2 minutes long. And I'm like, I walk away and I'm like, what the and everyone's like, phones are out. Everything is going. And you're like, oh shit, he's got everyone's attention without saying a word. Without fucking saying a word. And it gets corny after that, but guess what?
As soon as they present themselves, it's always like the headliner EDM guy is like behind the DJ booth.
Yeah. But why can't we use that little slot, that little space and time, and have everyone, including the bar, be like, what the fuck is going on? Did the music just stop? No, just like THX, like some fucking Spielberg shit where you're like, what is going on? And then come out with your own thing where it could be hip hop, it could be something, it could be some acapella, some hip hop shit that's coming out, it's hot as fuck. You're like, whoa, where's this going? And then hit him. Imagine the landscape you just created. That was original. That's for you. That's your moment. That's your night. You built your intro to your own night. Do it. I have to do it. You know why? Because I have EDM guys that I play with, and they're like, 30 seconds, I'm done. What am I gonna do? Everyone's been singing these guys' songs for okay, boom, Jack, just Jack. Everyone's like, what? And then goes into something else, like Slappy, and then I could go into other things. But I have to be quick on my toes, and I also want to build my own life. Like this is completely different from what just happened.
Right.
And I have different intros. I do the one for the library. I do one for Marquee Day Club. They don't have to say my name. I don't want them to say my name. It's just something different. Just that canvas, that 90 seconds, 2 minutes, you could just really captivate the whole room because even people are not paying attention, like, what happened to the music, man? It just stopped or something? Nope. And then they get punched in the face.
I think it all makes sense. We spent some time talking about, you mentioned like these DJs are doing this, they're just trying to recreate what they feel is supposed to be done. Wouldn't this be also in that same conversation where it's like, because we're kind of like saying it as if it's a bad thing. So wouldn't it lead to I think the only bad thing is that it's bad because everyone's they're doing the safest thing possible.
Yeah.
And like, I'm not mad at them. You know what I mean? So because they're trying to do their job, you know what I'm saying? Like, and to, the thing is I've gotten in positions where I've tried to do different things and I've gotten in trouble for that shit. And it's like, there's a scarring to like, there's like, I'm scarred a little
muscle
bit.
Muscle memory.
I'm like, I can't do this. Like, I'm going to get fucking yelled at. Or like, there's like a reputation, like Crooked's doing that thing again where he's just doing whatever he wants.
Yeah.
Crooked's not a team player.
You're like the manatee with the propeller marks on your back. You've been run over too many times.
Right.
No, so it's to the point where it's like, for me, right? Like, I want to do what I want to do, but I kind of want to figure it out in a safe space where I don't have to like fight the system too much.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Some happy medium, some common ground, some kind of.
I mean, when the time comes, like we can go full throttle with whatever the fuck I really want to do.
So what you really want to do comes out what? The last 30 minutes?
I would say like when people listen to me, like if you want to hear me DJ, the best time to hear me, and like Never, you've heard me DJ, is probably towards the end of my set.
End of the night. Towards the end of the night.
Yeah. Because, or the beginning of the night. Because in the middle, I'm trying to make the club money. I'm trying to make it pop. I'm trying to do whatever. Like, remember back in the day at Jet, we would start at 10:38 p.m. and then we go to maybe 5 a.m. sometimes.
Yeah.
If I had that template now, I'd be like, come at 3. That's the perfect time. come at 3 a.m. or come at like 2:30. You know what I'm saying? Like then you'll start hearing. That's when I'm just like free balling. I'm just doing whatever, and I'm just going crazy.
Yeah.
But I need the 10:30 to 12, and I need the 2:30 to 4 a.m. or 5 a.m. in order to really appreciate the 12 to 2 a.m.
Right.
Yeah.
Because otherwise, if I just come in and I'm doing 12 to 2, I'm just like doing the same.
Right.
You know?
It's almost like your reward. It's like, I did all this. I've done this. I've made the club money. And now
You checked all the boxes. You checked all the boxes. Now you can have
and
fun.
now on the other end of that 2-hour set where the bottles are coming out.
I've literally been at clubs, had a guest spot. I'm like, I did my guest spot. Let me play a little bit longer, or like, let me.
Yeah.
I've given you like, I did my 2 hours. I gave you an hour and a half. Let me have the last half hour.
Yeah.
And I'll just be like, yo, like, everything was great, but the last half hour, you know. And I'm just like, all right, cool. Like, you want to keep it one genre. Like, oh, you went a little too this way, but the crowd was feeling it. Yeah, but we don't want to go. We don't want that genre here. We want you to keep it here and do this and do that.
It's off-brand
and that's where
or something like that.
I'm starting to realize I can start saying like, all right, I just don't want to be at that club no more.
Yeah.
Because there's so many fucking DJs that will do whatever they want, that will look the way they want, that will act the way they want. And then like, yo, you could book those guys, and they're younger, and they're like, they want to please you. They want to like really want to do that shit.
Right.
So let me ask you this: will you, if you're headlining somewhere, do you show up for the opening set, or do you just try to show up?
I show up pretty early. If I had it my way, I would want. I should usually show. If I start at 12, I usually show up at 11:15.
Yeah.
Do you make it known that you're there? Or
Yeah,
I just kind of say hello.
I say what up to the opener. I like hang out. We have maybe a drink or so.
Okay.
It's like, all right, he knows I'm here. If he still burns me at this point,
Right.
that's the fucked up shit. Yeah.
Which happens a lot.
Yeah.
A lot.
I'll tell you a story. Like this is an interesting story. I went to, and a bunch of DJs came through to hear me spin, and I was there early, like 11:15. I had to start at 12. And this DJ was just dropping hit after hit, blow the whistle, YG, BPT, everything, every Cali anthem you could think of.
Damn.
He's dropping every fucking thing. And for some reason, because I was there to hear it, and I was looking at the crowd, and the crowd wasn't ready for it, you know, it was overbearing at that time.
Right.
I was just smiling. And then the other DJs were like, whoa, like, what are you going to play, bro? Like, dude, he's playing everything. What are you going to play?
Mike, it's like, how many people want to hear these songs again when the time is right?
Yeah. But I didn't even play any of them again.
So what'd you do?
Yeah.
So I was just, the whole time I'm smiling because I'm like, they don't want to hear that. Oh, they don't. They want to hear this. They want to do this. I'll do that. And I'm just looking at it, and I'm just like, this is cool. This is cool. And I'm like, maybe I hit, the booker next time. Tell him I'll just open for myself, because
Right.
That's somebody you do want to take.
Yeah, but
yeah.
the thing is, like, I wasn't mad at him because I feel like that was maybe a tryout to that opener DJ. He was trying to show improve.
Yeah.
Maybe he doesn't have the education, or he just doesn't know what to do, or he's nervous or whatever. Yeah. So I was just smiling the whole time. I got on, I played 3 records, felt it out, and I just kind of just hit him with what I wanted to do.
Right.
But it was like, I that night I played fucking merengue. I played everything. Like I went all over the fucking place. But it was just like,
and it went over, and you got and it was a good party, and you didn't have to play the low hanging fruit again.
The thing is like the opener. Like if you're opening, if I'm opening for you, I should be showing you what are the depths of this room. You can go there. I should be going zigzagging for you, and showing the headliner like, yo, if you show up early, I should zigzag and show you exactly where the fuck you could go.
Yeah,
that's what, like, whenever like
that's an interesting take.
Yeah, that is. Yeah,
you know what I mean?
But
like,
I like that.
I remember I went to Live, and I've said this story before. Like Jessica Who was opening for me. She played King Floyd in Live.
Wow.
Damn.
What, Groove Me?
Yeah, Groove Me. Yeah. And she went all over the place. Went into electro. Went into hip hop. Went into everything. And I was a little confused. I was like, holy shit, I didn't know you could do that. But it for me, it just opened up a whole bunch of shit. And I was like, fuck it. Like, and that was the best opening set I heard.
That's great. Yeah.
But it's like an opener to me. When I open for people, I would go left, right. I would zigzag. If they're there and they're listening to it, I would zigzag, and I would go everywhere so they can hear it. And then the headliner could be like, yeah, you did a little 80s there. That was dope. Like you play a little 80s R&B shit. Like you play some dancehall. Like that's crazy. Kind of educate them, because every headliner coming in is going to do close to almost the same set that they do everywhere else, because they want it to be safe, especially if it's their first.
And they know it's going to work.
Yeah.
Right.
And one of the benefits you have that I envy is that every week you're at the same venues, like, you know, some of the same venues. You're there weekly, so you know the room left and right, and you have the outlet to take these chances and to say that. But if you travel to, like, you know, a one-off in Chicago or Miami, you know, you got to be real bold to do that, because it may work or it may not work. You know,
I'm still doing it.
You're still doing it, which I love. You know, I love that.
You don't see that a lot.
Yeah,
I mean,
but that's
you know.
but that's the one thing. When I see Jason Lima now, there is this calm confidence that I love, and I've noticed it with, like, older DJs.
Yeah.
Where they're not rushing. You know, it's like that old Colors, that movie, that Colors saying, it's like, hey, let's run down and fuck one of them cows.
Or
right?
walk down and fuck them all. Yeah.
And it's really that, like, kind of, the more, like, calm and the more I take my time, because I do that sometimes, you know, like, as open, like, we're from New York, we'll quick mix, we're trying to hit them, we're trying to bang them out.
Yeah.
It's like, the more I just kind of relax, let a song sit, and if, like, oh, they're not feeling it, like, I let it sit a little bit. By the second verse, they start feeling it, and then you start hitting a rhythm, and you just kind of, like, you calm it down. The more calm and still I am, the more they're like kind of like listening to me and trusting me a little bit.
You have to hypnotize people.
Right.
And you can't hypnotize them if they're going too fast. Sometimes you have to take your time and kind of make those awkward moments and then ease them into something else. And like you said, find that rhythm, like, okay. And it just, there's this moment I feel like that you build with people. They're like, okay, they know what I'm doing now.
Yeah,
they get me.
There was also that adjustment too when you guys first moved out. See, I would do some quick mixing if I had a cool mix that, you know, maybe a 3-record configuration here and there. But that was an adjustment, because remember at Light Group, it was like, play the fucking records. You know, they didn't understand if you were doing some wordplay shit or you just wanted to juggle
Like,
records.
play
And
the
me
whole
coming
song.
in, like,
Play
you
the
know,
whole
dance-
song. They're
Yeah.
like, you're like, you guys are mixing out of it. You're only playing the chorus, and, like, play the whole song.
Yeah.
So there was, like, when I first moved to Vegas, there was a rule, like, you have to play, like, I don't know, I don't know what there was a rule though. Like, they were just like, you have to play the whole song or
2 verses.
Two verses,
at least
at
two
least,
verses
or something like
and
that.
Something like that. Yeah.
Because, I mean, who was the guy that used to run the Bellagio back in the days? I was DJing one night, and he called Andrews, like, told Andrew the DJ's not letting the song play long enough.
Oh, those fucking oh, Jesus Christ. Ooh. Having flashbacks. I'm sorry. Ooh.
no,
Music was long back then, man. Like
4 minutes, 5 minutes.
You know, my son's big into Quad City DJs right now.
Really?
Coming by the train.
That's dope.
And he wants me to play the whole fucking song. I didn't realize it's like 6 minute 42 seconds. I'm like, I can't hear this song again, man. Fuck, I've heard it like 6 times in the car. I'm like, I was just on a cruise with him. He was making me play it the whole time. I'm like, no more, man. No more.
Were there any changes in the song?
It's like,
I never
here,
heard this song. I never heard
There's
this
a
song.
couple cowbells that come in later, man.
I never heard that before. It's interesting. I like this. This is a house versus EDM episode.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know what we talked about.
We just like,
I tried to bring it in and organize it. I don't know what happened. It's just chaotic.
This is just camaraderie and sharing knowledge. Hey, listen, I learned.
Yeah.
You learn a lot. Yeah,
Yeah.
Every time I've been here, I've learned a lot, and you have a lot to say, and Eddie's got a lot to say. All you guys have a lot to say, and I really appreciate that time.
Yeah.
It's I don't get this a lot, and I might have these little moments here and there when I'm out or when I talk to friends during lunch. But to sit down with you guys, it's like a wealth of knowledge. I love it.
Likewise, brother.
There's one thing I do want to, before we end this, I want to clear this up because I want some clarity, even for myself.
Okay.
When house emerged, what was the timeline for house? It was house, techno, trance?
I mean, as far as house, I mean, you know, and I know we spoke about, you know, you mentioned like I Feel Love is like the first EDM record or something like that. House, I think, you know, a record, a very important record in house, I would say, is Farley Jackmaster Funk. Love Can't Turn Around with also produced by Jesse Saunders. Shout out to Jesse.
Jesse Saunders, right?
Daryl Pandy did the vocal.
Love can't turn around. Love can't turn around. Love can't turn around.
And when I was younger, I was into more heavy shit. I loved trance back in the day in New York. Loved tribal progressive, kind of aggressive stuff for like the 90s, I would say. And the house always seemed a little slower to me until I kind of, I kind of honed in and started appreciating it more. And when I used to hear that record, I'm like, I was never a fan, and now I get it. But that is for, and that's, I'm trying to think what year that came out, and I don't even want to get it wrong. I mean, but I don't know I think a lot of things existed because House like, comes out, but Kraftwerk was already out.
My introduction to House, I believe, was Marshall Jefferson, Move That Body.
Yeah,
that's me personally, and this was like in '86. And during that era, we had Colonel Abrams, Trap.
Oh, the best! I love
that. You Get the Best of Me.
Yep. Well, a lot of the Detroit stuff.
A lot of that stuff,
Kevin Saunderson stuff, Inner City,
a lot of the
Big
Todd
Fun.
Terry stuff.
I was going to say Inner City and Todd Terry. Right. That was when I really got into it. That would be more like 87, 88, around that time. Yeah. I remember Inner City in particular sucked a lot of people into house. Yeah. For sure.
I mean, those sounds were a lot. Yeah, I mean, Chicago and Detroit was so important. And Kevin Saunderson would be considered a techno producer, but if you listen to Big Fun and
isn't Cybertron and all that
Good Life and shit, Cybertron was Juan Atkins.
I'm saying, but it's the same time though. I mean, it happens around the same time.
This is like 87, 88.
Fuck.
Yeah.
Oh man.
So that was more Detroit. Was Juan Atkins, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then it just started getting completely pop towards the late 80s, early 90s.
But was it?
Right?
It was just it had commercial appeal, but it wasn't selling itself out. I mean, Crystal Ward is Gypsy Woman. I think that's the Basement Boys produced that. They are the real fucking deal, man. I mean, and that was a radio hit. I mean, that was all, I mean, as we know, and it still goes over like a ton of bricks still. It's infectious. T.I. fucking brought it into the hip hop world, all that shit.
But I feel like it crossed over with Madonna when she put out Vogue.
Without a doubt.
Yeah.
Without a doubt.
That's when everybody started to like pay attention to house music.
Without a doubt, for sure.
Nobody's mentioned the whole Night at the Roxbury stuff. That
well,
whole
the
era.
Eurodance, the LaBouche, the Hadaway, the Real McCoy,
That's
all
90s,
that shit.
right?
Yeah, Be My Lover, fucking Runaway.
Marillo, I like to move it.
Right.
That's kind of the EDM of its time, basically. That's the EDM of its time.
That was strictly rhythm though too. But that was definitely probably
the pop.
That's like the
poppiest.
It's
shit.
European poppy, white.
Boricua Posse, like Rare Arts, all that stuff. That was
But see, like people would actually remember. I told you that when they were saying there was patterns when like black music was stolen, taken and created and whitewashed.
Right.
It happened with disco, and then it happened with house, and then when it became European, they're saying it was kind of taken again and just kind of like
mid 90s.
Yeah, mid 90s with all like the Hello Barbie, Let's Go Party, that whole era. Remember?
Yeah, I'm blue. Eiffel 65. Whatever the fuck.
But then it got kind of bastardized. But and then it kind of happened.
Sonique was a big record, and she came up more in the drum and bass world. I believe I could be wrong, but I believe she traditionally was more in the drum and bass world. DJ Rap, another one that had like a crossover kind of little appeal, and she was traditionally drum and bass, and she had some crossover dance hits too. But I think it happens. I think the people are always kind of, the credit's always going in different directions, and even like there was Swedish House Mafia records. What was it, From East to West or something with Dizzy Rascal or something? There was some record that I'm like, yo, and a lot of their drums, a lot of their synths, the sounds. I'm like, this is fucking 90s New York progressive house. Stop calling it the fucking Swedish sound, because it's just, I'm like, I'll play you 50 fucking records from like the mid to late 90s that this is basically mimicking, only with less of a journey, because it's 4.5 minutes long, and it's just like, but it's like the Swedish sound. Like, come on.
Another factor is the what you might call like the other, like when you like the grass is always greener on the other side. What I mean by that is when these European guys are hearing the New York records, they think that's the sound that's so huge there, right? And then when it blows up in Europe, what happened here in Vegas is they think, oh, just because they're Dutch or Swedish,
That's where
it's
it came
so
from.
fucking huge. Like these guys, they think they're so big because they're from this area that's hot or whatever, and there's a everyone thinks the other one is actually bigger than it is. So there's kind of this back and forth feeling that happens with Ibiza also and Tulum and all
I'm having
of it.
FOMO right now.
And it's also
you kind of feel like it's cooler over there. So Afrojack was like, I got to get to Vegas. Now I know I made it.
Right.
Meanwhile, everyone in Vegas is like, well, once we get those Dutch guys, then we'll know that we made it. You know what I mean?
I was in
It's
Mykonos.
like-
I was in Mykonos a few years ago, and I was like, wait, this is just as corny as going.
Exactly.
dude, there's like, when you fall in love with something, like all these people are so fucking infatuated, plur all over their fucking bodies, all this fucking stupid shit. And I don't want to say stupid shit. Just I don't connect to that whole, that whole kind of shtick of But the thing is, the problem is, nobody takes the time to educate themselves. They have all the information in the world at their fingertips and aren't quick to use it. Like when you fall in love with something, if you claim to truly love something, whether it's a human being or a genre of music or an artist in particular, whatever the fuck it is, you want to learn. You're dating a woman. I'm in love with this girl. I want to learn everything about you. I want to know more about you because, and why should it be different with music? Like when I fall in love with Jamaican music, I don't want to know. Like my gateway to dancehall was probably Profile Records. This is Dancehall Volume 2. But I connected with it so much. I want to learn everything. I want to learn ska. I want to learn rocksteady. I want to learn everything. Nobody's doing that. So like what you're saying is like, oh yeah, the Dutch guys. Educate yourself. It goes way deeper than that. So much impactful shit and so many impactful artists and producers. Whatever. Shecky, can you help me?
Well, I was going to say the predecessors of But the other thing is there is hope because as you guys are probably aware, what's hot on TikTok and is the catalog art. Like music is coming back. Like a lot of young people are listening to the classics in different ways because someone does a viral TikTok and has like an old song in it, and that's now a way that people discover music. And as a result, young people, and I've heard some direct evidence, they really are interested. I mean, another one is the Stranger Things thing and all that kind of thing.
The Kate Bush.
Kate Bush,
The ABBA.
And there was hope.
Kate Bush, exactly. So that's happening now too. There is sort of, now it hasn't made its way to...
Fleetwood Mac was another one.
Fleetwood Mac,
Dreams,
it hasn't made its way to discovering Marshall Jefferson and stuff like that, but maybe it will. Maybe eventually this new thing of looking back actually will shine the light on some of these, legends of house and disco, etc.
Yeah.
Have you heard that that article that said the era of new music is over?
Oh yeah.
I'm kind of curious. You have a huge history with the Source magazine. You're a journalist, Harvard grad. I'm kind of curious your take on this whole thing. Where I think the article was basically summarized. They were just like saying that there's like the amount of new music that's being consumed is like less than 30% right now, or something like that, and like people are consuming like 80% or more of old music. So like the market for new music is getting smaller and smaller. Damn. And it's kind of saying the future for new music is almost like, it's not over, but it's like, it's not about that anymore.
I guess from a mainstream point of view.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people that I know now don't listen to a lot of mainstream shit. They all listen to maybe like indie, records and a lot of independent shit, Yeah. A lot of those great records aren't, they don't have the label support, they don't have the team or whatever. So, they're going to those artists or bands Bandcamp or just buying it straight off from them from whatever website or something. It's just different. Now they just can't measure the metrics of those sales. That's all it is. So it's not new music isn't popular. Yeah, I mean, just the major label shit isn't, because it's all shit right now.
Well, they're saying the consumption is very small compared to
but they're
music.
only putting it in the mainstream.
That's how they're measuring it. Right?
Yeah, exactly.
How are they measuring? Also, let's remember, not everyone has the obsessions that maybe some of us have with music.
Right.
Right? It's like saying this guy is a chef and he wants to taste like everything from like crickets to maybe some weird, cut of meat from, turkey.
Right.
Not everyone's built for that. Not everyone's built to taste all these flavors or to look for these flavors.
I think you're onto something, because I think what's happened is there's two sides to this explosion of availability of music, discovering music. Now everyone has Spotify, YouTube in their pocket, millions of songs, tons of new artists, but there's less. Some people actually want to be programmed to.
Right.
And that's there's nothing wrong with that.
It's okay, is it?
And the days of, in my youth, we had radio, we had then later MTV,
Yep.
and we were basically programmed to, but we liked it. And now everyone's like, no, you just go out and discover whatever music you want. But to your exact point, not everyone wants to do that.
Right.
Not everyone wants to go on a pathway to discover all the music. So that's actually why, in my mind, DJs are getting more and more important as curators, as the Sherpa that guides you into this mysterious music mountain that you can climb with us.
Yeah.
Like a curator or a DJ is someone that has to kind of like cut through the bush to find the gems and bring them back to show people, and so this was always the role of a DJ, but now it's even more important than ever, because there's no more MTV, there's very little radio really programming to people. I mean, of course there's Sirius and et cetera, but people really are just using Spotify, but they don't have the time to find it. So there's this weird space happening where it's all out there, but no one's really showing them where it is.
Right.
Yeah. And as a result, but also there's also other factors like the viral. There is definitely a surge in catalog sales, and I think that's a good thing, because I love old music, as most of us do. But yeah, there's a weird disconnect between all this new music and people that don't have the ability to really wade through it to pick out the things they like.
Yeah.
But also, it's just like social media right now, TikTok, Instagram. Those are really the outlets for people to find music, which is weird. It is.
It is.
Twitter,
Still don't know how I feel about it. It just
Honestly,
seems so strange,
I've
but I'm glad
found a
it's
bunch
happening.
of like independent records or a bunch of records that were released, even 3 years ago that I've never heard of, and I've found it through like TikTok or Instagram. I'm like, yo, this record's.
How did you find it?
People with these videos. I found some of these house records, like even like some like acoustic or like some indie rock or whatever. I found.
So you're scrolling and you just end up finding it?
Yeah.
And this is. Do you feel like this is because I'm still not on TikTok, but
me neither. I've never been.
Has this replaced SoundCloud? Is SoundCloud now irrelevant, damn near?
Yeah,
because I used to be that kind of vibe. You scroll sound.
I would say TikTok is number one right now, and then I don't know. I think maybe Twitter might be ahead of Instagram, but I'm not sure.
Yeah.
There's a bunch of new hip hop that I learned from Twitter.
Yeah.
No shit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then as far as like pop music, I hear it on TikTok, and I do hear it, and I'm just like, oh shit. I've seen like 4 videos with this song.
Yeah.
What is that song?
And then,
Right.
Yeah, and then what is this song?
And then they'll go over to Spotify or YouTube or SoundCloud.
I mean,
whatever.
there's a ton of Afro beats.
Yeah.
On TikTok, it's insane.
Well,
so
that's
like,
what I was asking about. What is the future of? What's the near future of Afro beats and that whole sound? I'm really curious for you guys' take
I have
on that.
no idea where that is right now.
Where is that going? Like,
I know very little about it. I think some of the best music on this planet is coming out of Africa on the everything. I love it.
I agree.
mean, especially
feels great.
from
It feels great,
coming
yeah.
from like that dance hall
Feels
kind of
raw.
background too. Like I connected more. Like I really like. I mean, WizKid was probably my gateway drug, and I'm very clueless about it. I haven't kept up with it. Like I feel like my enthusiasm about the genre is that. I need to kick it with you some more, man. The
new Afrobeat stuff. It's all. I mean, it's still finding itself, because I mean, if you listen to Afrobeats from 2 years ago, it sounds completely different than what it is right now.
Where do you find it?
Honestly, I don't even know.
That's what I was asking.
I find a lot of everything that I listen to that isn't like I find like Baile Funk, Afrobeat, YouTube. YouTube is
the difficult
huge.
thing is that a lot of that music is really regional.
Yeah.
And the thing is, we're in probably the worst city to like experience that music.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like
in the middle of the desert.
If we were in New York, or if we were in Miami or anywhere on the East Coast,
it's not cultural enough.
Yeah.
Here. It's not ethnic enough. It's not cultural enough.
Yeah.
It's not feeding the city. It's not
It's
feeding
not that
the
melting
city.
pot vibe.
Right.
So is there a playlist in Miami or in Queens where you could say, oh yeah, it's on this radio station they're playing a lot?
No.
Well, the thing is, it's spread out. It's
Spotify, right?
Yes.
They have.
Well, yeah. I mean, like if you go to like Spotify and you look up like an Afro beats like playlist, you might see like some of the hits, some of the things, but it's really like a lot
So how do you play it then? You just like, oh, this is dope, I'm gonna play it, and then what if it bombs? Like I'm just saying,
no. Here, just to clear it up, if you go to New York, there is more Afro beats infused into the DJ sets.
Okay.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's almost like the new R&B.
There's a market for it there.
Yeah, for a lot of people, it's like new R&B.
Okay.
Because like R&B isn't even R&B. Like they don't make danceable R&B nowadays.
No. It's all vibe.
Yeah, and then like a lot of dance hall doesn't cross over.
So you go to New York, you hear 3 records that are amazing in New York that are Afro beats.
Yeah,
and how do you bring them back here?
It's usually just late. It just comes late.
Yeah.
Like
Now, how do you bring them back here? You play them late in your sets?
I play them early or late in the sets. I kind of fit
See, like
it in.
this is work. Okay.
Yeah, or
Does anybody know this? Is it one head? Okay.
But more likely, if I have a 12:30 to 2:30 a.m. set, I'm not going to play any of it.
Yeah.
And that's
220. You're like dropping.
Yeah, but even still, it's just kind of like, what are you doing? It's a packed room.
Yeah.
And so for me, this is the soul sucking shit about my position as a DJ and a headliner. I don't get to play anything I want to because I have to go there and make money for the club. I'm in the slot to make money for the club. I'm almost to the point where I want to tell like certain nightclubs. I tell this all the time to certain like club owners. I'm like, yo, if there's a night where you want to give me where I could just play the whole night, let me know. And then they're like, we'll let you know. Like if there's a regular night that you can just come in and just play whatever you want. And then usually there's no outlet because like you have to come in at 12:30 and 2:30 and make money for the club. You know what I'm saying? It's not about me.
It's got to be a small room for you somewhere.
There is a small room, but it's really how I catalog and how I put everything together, and I'll implement these things.
Right.
But as far as Afro beats, like I'll end the night with it. I may tease some of it and see if it works, but in the end, I got to make the club money. You know what I'm saying?
It's pretty chill after all.
Yeah. And plus, but if I go to New York, it's a different story. If I go
Are
to
they making money with that music?
Yeah.
I mean, look, there's like it's a whole scene. It's like in New York, it's different when you DJ.
Especially I'm a piano.
In the early 2000s, we would do a dance hall set. It was mandatory. In the 90s, even more so. In a hip hop party, you did a dance hall set.
Also, until you got to Vegas.
Yeah, until you got to Vegas.
And,
yeah. But even still, we would ram it in, and then they would have meetings. They'd be like, "Hey, no more." They're like, Eddie, no more reggae.
I'm like, what the fuck did I get myself into? It was just Murder, She Wrote. I wasn't even digging deep, bro. It's like,
and then I show up late to the meeting, and I'm like, yo, what did I miss? And Never's like, no more reggae. And then I'm like, why? And he's like, Eddie. And I'm like, Eddie, what the fuck did you do? We can't play reggae no more?
Yeah.
But we used to have these meetings like that. When in New York, it was fucking mandatory.
You need that moment.
Because that was the only time you got to grind with a girl and like really dance close with a girl was in dance hall music.
Punani, bro.
That's the only time you really got to. So you had to play that shit. You know what I mean? And it's just, it's just different.
It was part of the Trinity, like, you know, I mean, especially, speaking from like New York and stuff like that, it was part of the Trinity. It was like hip hop, house, R&B, and
but nothing's changed in New York. They still, you do a reggaeton set, you do an Afrobeat set.
Yep.
You do now like there's even more genres. So like in certain parties in New York, you don't even hear like real commercial hip hop or anything music.
No.
You just hear a mix of all these genres from reggaeton to fucking Afro beats. I'm a piano. You might hear some R&B and some Drake pushed in, but it's really a majority of these other genres that are there. But yeah, Afro beats and EDM and house.
Afro beats versus reggaeton.
What do you call it? I mean, look, we're gonna wrap this up. We're like 2.5 hours in.
It's like a Rogan podcast now.
I know.
You got like 3 podcasts out of this one recording.
I
just
love
so
it.
you know. You got like three.
I mean, this guy has to edit it. So, Jamie, you got to edit this shit.
Uh-oh, he's getting lathered up over there.
He's greasing up those edit fingers.
Yeah.
My wife's been texting me for like an hour and a half. Like,
I know.
you gonna bring us food?
All right. So, Spider Tech,
Yes.
Jason Lima, Eddie McDonald, Shecky Green. Thank you so much for coming to this round table discussion of everything.
Anytime.
Yeah.
But kind of surrounded around house
so
versus
much.
EDM.
I've learned so much.
Well, listen,
Yeah.
that was what you set out, and that was the theme. But look at all the interesting kind of offshoots it was. So you know,
I've learned so
I thought
much.
this one hit differently. I mean, I've been on this podcast a lot of times. This
I
was a lot
got to
of
do
fun.
more
This was-
round tables like this.
this
where
was
we're-
really good.
Every season, we all just kind of meet
I
up
was
and
gonna
talk
say
shit.
once a month.
It's all connected, man.
How many new David Guetta stories can we tell? You know, that's what that comes down to. All right, y'all. Yo, thanks so much, guys. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Crooked. All right,
Yeah.
peace.
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 If you want to watch more episodes from R.O.A.D Podcast, click either links on the left or the right. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube page and get updated on new uploads throughout the week. Peace.